In this world, ancient ruins are scattered everywhere, mysterious and dangerous places explored by bounty hunters. Among them all, the strongest right now is Kray, a man who stands at the very top of the hierarchy. There's no one even close to reaching his level. And now Kray is a young man living in the capital, where a large recruitment drive is being organized by one of the biggest clans. Kray sneaks into the line, and a girl named Ruta starts talking about her problems, saying that she can't go on alone in a treasure vault, so she decided to join a group. Suddenly, one of the boys in line starts mocking Ruta, saying that a woman like her couldn't get through the White Wolf's lair being at level 3. She gets angry at the man's comments, whose name is Greg, and they both start to get angry with each other. Kray obviously doesn't want to be part of this mess, so he does his best to blend in with the wall behind him. A guard quickly arrives to break up the fight, and soon after, they enter the tavern, and Kray tells Ruta to ask him anything, as he has been to many of these meetings before. She first asked about the most flashy group, and Kray says they are the best clan, led by a blonde playboy named Ark. He is currently at level 7, and with only 5 teammates, he managed to clear a level 7 treasure vault, which means they are all very skilled. Ruta is amazed to hear this, and asks him about the empty seat next to Ark's group. And before Kray can say anything, Greg arrives and asks if she doesn't know that that seat belongs to the famous leader of the Grievers group, who founded the First Steps clan. Greg tells Ruta that the main reason there are so many people there is that the Grievers are trying to find a new member for the first time. Suddenly, a red-haired boy starts yelling at the event organizers, asking where the people from the strongest group are, because he only came for them. At that moment, a girl named Tino appears to discipline the boy, and although the guard from before tries to stop her, neither of them is willing to back down. The hunters in the tavern are eager to see a good fight, and Kray leaves with him so they don't get caught in the crossfire. Meanwhile, Tina starts to get heated when suddenly she senses a familiar presence, so she completely ignores the red-haired boy and starts looking around. Suddenly, she notices Kray and goes towards him, ignoring the redhead's attack, and her personality changes completely. She is now no longer the killing machine she was before, but a friendly and cute girl completely in love with Kray. She calls him master and asks how long he has been there. At that moment, the blonde boy named Ark arrives and tells Kray that he is late. Without his presence, the event that is about to take place cannot continue. At that moment, everyone is shocked to learn that this pathetic man lying on the ground is the leader of the strongest clan. Apparently, Kray doesn't like being the center of attention, and his history as leader of the strongest clan began 5 years ago, when he formed a group called Grievers with his childhood friends to fulfill their dream. They went to the beginners' vaults and quickly cleaned them out. Yes, in this anime they don't call them dungeons, but vaults. And during these adventures, it was only Kray's friends who did what they wanted, all the work, and he was often unaware of what was going on, being just a weak and vulnerable being. But his friends thought he was serving as bait for the monsters on purpose. He was the only one who had no real skills, and he knew he would soon get in the way of his friends on their mission. So, he decided to leave the group for the sake of everyone. When he gathered his friends to tell them he was leaving the group, they completely ignored him and said that their group didn't have a leader. Therefore, now he should take over the position. Kray was shocked that his resignation had been turned into a promotion, but he had no choice but to move forward. Thus, he became the leader of the group that soon became the strongest in the world. Back in the present, Kray is in his seat with Ark and Chino by his side, and both are fighting for his attention. Ark then says that Kray must have arrived late on purpose to mingle with the candidates and evaluate them. Deep down, Kray wants to say that this is not true, and that he was only late because he overslept, but he obviously says nothing. Ark then asks if he has found anyone suitable to join the group. Kray's attention turns to the violent redhead from earlier. He asks the boy to introduce himself. The boy says his name is Gil, and Kray believes that if Ark's group trains him, the boy will be able to unlock his full potential. But it turns out that deep down, Kray knows he has no talent for identifying people. So, he decided to choose Gil, who seems to be a very hard-working boy. However, he has one condition that Gil must meet. Kray says that the most important thing for a hunter is strength and the determination to never give up. And so, he decides to test them to see if they are worthy of joining his clan. He declares that since becoming a hunter, he has never lost a single time, and everyone is shocked. But that only happened because he has never been in a real fight. Kray then takes off one of his rings, declaring that whoever catches it will receive a recommendation from him to join the Ark group. He throws the ring toward the crowd, and Gil runs to catch it. But Chino acts quickly and sends him flying with a kick. The ring then flies out of his hands and starts rolling on the floor, and all the hunters in the tavern start chasing after it. Just like my father used to chase me when he was drunk to beat me up. To make matters worse, Kray declares that the ring is also a treasure item. Therefore, whoever catches it can also choose to keep only the ring. He wishes everyone good luck. Then he tells Ruta and Greg that he will see them around. The next day, while Kray is relaxing in his office, his secretary, Eva, complains about the small mess his challenge has caused. She also informs him that the Treasure Hunters Association wants to have a conversation with him. Being the coward that he is, Kray wants to send Ark in his place. But he is no longer in town, and so Kray has no choice but to go there. As soon as he arrives at the office, he immediately kneels before the big man named Gark and begins to apologize. But Gark is not satisfied with this apology. He asks his secretary to give Kray a book with missions that no hunter wants to do because they pay very poorly or are extremely difficult. Kray begins to flip through the book to find an easy mission and pass it on to someone else. He finds a mission in a level 3 vault. The mission is to rescue some hunters, and he easily accepts it, not knowing that it is the most dangerous of all. When Kray arrives at the clan's office, he finds Atino, who is there to show him the ring she won yesterday. He then asks if she is free now, and Atino says yes, because this is the perfect moment to make her master fall in love with her. However, what she doesn't know is that he only wants her to fulfill the mission she received from Gark. When this happens, Atino disappears, but Kray uses an artifact that tracks her and learns her whereabouts. He says that the rescue mission is in the wolves' lair, and he already knows exactly who he is going to send there with Tino. He then forms a group with Ruta, Tino, Greg, and Gil to take on the mission. At that moment, we are taken to a flashback from 6 years ago, when Kray's group went to register as a group with the Treasure Hunters Association. At the time, the redhead named Luke opened the door and introduced himself as the strongest swordsman in the world. After him, the tan girl named Liz declared that she was the greatest thief. Obviously, we are talking about classes here. At that time, Kray was filled with shame and just wanted to die. But his friends continued to embarrass him even more, saying that he was the strongest in the group. Even though he was reluctant, he went to the reception desk to fill out the group's paperwork, and the receptionist asked him to choose a name and symbol for the group. As no one in his group had thought of it before, Kray entered in an attempt to be rejected by everyone. He chose the worst possible name, the Grievers, and as a symbol he chose a poorly drawn skull. And it worked, because everyone told him that the name and symbol were horrible. However, he said he would not stay in the group if they chose another name or symbol. This immediately changed his friends' tone, and they accepted his decision. They then told Kray that he had a great sense of choosing names, and that the symbol he drew was incredible, and they hadn't realized this before because they weren't as smart as him. It was at that moment that Kray realized he had no choice. He had to move on, and the Grievers group was formed. Back in the present, Kray stands before the 3 treasure hunters who still haven't gotten used to the fact that he is the strongest man in the kingdom. They ask him if he really is a level 8 hunter, nicknamed Thousand Tricks. But before Kray can say anything, Tino defends him and orders everyone to kneel. In his presence, Kray asks her to stop intimidating them. But the redhead acts arrogantly, saying that he seems too weak to be the true master. Kray ignores this and asks if everyone present is willing to help Tino explore a level 3 treasure chest. Gil refuses to take orders from Kray, and Greg starts fighting with him, asking him to show respect to a level 8 hunter. With no other options, Kray decides to remove Gil from the team. However, the boy suddenly challenges him to a fight and says he will become his subordinate if he loses. Kray accepts the challenge but tells him to fight Tino instead. The boy accepts the challenge and they head to the training room. There, Gil tells Kray that after he defeats the girl, he will challenge him. In response, Kray says that Tino is a level 4 hunter, but even though she is at the same level as Gil, she is still far superior to him. Quickly, Tino says goodbye and Gil says goodbye. Platino, drop your weapon, saying he doesn't need them, which leads Gil to throw away his sword as well. Chino advances toward Gil, and the boy can't even react. He dodges the first blow, but that was just a setup for a powerful kick that throws him against the wall. Chino, happy, says she has already defeated him, but Gil gets up and attacks her. However, Chino knocks him down again with a blow to the neck. She assumes once again that she has won the battle and heads towards Kray, eager to receive his praise. As she walks towards Kray to receive some words of encouragement, Gil lies on the ground, totally unable to believe that he is lost. He remembers how he was always the strongest boy and dreamed of becoming the most powerful swordsman. He became a treasure hunter to fulfill that dream, but soon became too strong for his group, so he decided to join the strongest group. Kray, even without knowing his story, asks him if he left his old group because of the difference in abilities. And Gil, shocked, asks how he knows that. And Kray replies that he was once in the same situation. But unlike him, he ended up staying with the group. Kray says this, but does not reveal the most crucial part of his story, because at the time, it was his friends who didn't abandon him. and everyone ends up understanding that Kray was too strong and that he didn't abandon his friends. Suddenly, Kray touches his sword with his feet and his body is covered in flames. And Gil is stunned by this, because he hasn't been able to manifest flames at that level yet. But Kray can do it without even holding the sword. So it is at this moment that the boy accepts that Kray is a monster he cannot overcome. After that, Kray reads the details about the mission, and says that they will be going to a treasure vault to rescue some hunters. The monsters they faced there are ghosts of silver wolves, who used to live in the lair before being hunted. Later, the secretary Eva tells Kray that he shouldn't have sent Tina and those other rookies to a treasure vault, but he says that this is only a level 3 vault. As for Gil's sword, it is so easy to use that even Gil can wield it without knowing anything about it. It is at this moment that we discover that Kray is the greatest lover of relics in the world. He says that the relics found in the vaults are incredible, and that his dream is to have them all. He begins to imagine himself using Gil's sword, and wonders if he should try to buy it from him. However, Eva scolds him, saying that he already has too many relics. But he responds by saying that each relic is different, so he never gets tired of them. Suddenly, he remembers that he needs to charge his relics, so he goes to his guild's mage. And while the mage charges the relic, she and her partner tell Kray about the ghost wolf seen near the wolves' den, which destroyed a caravan that had level 3 guards. In addition, the monsters in the vault have been getting stronger recently, and even a team of level 5 treasure hunters disappeared inside it. Kray is shocked to hear all this. He immediately picks up the mission information page. He hadn't noticed the names and levels of the people he had to rescue when he accepted the mission, and he panics when he realizes that he sent level 3 people to rescue level 5 people. He comes to the conclusion that he sent everyone to their deaths, and when he tells the other two, they are also frightened, but they come to the conclusion that this is how Kray trains those with potential. After that, Kray immediately leaves the room, trying to convince himself that everything will be fine. After all, Chino is a very strong level 4, and Gil is also not to be outdone. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, Chino's group is already close to the treasure vault, and the atmosphere has started to become scary. And although she already knew that Kray had taken on a very difficult mission, she comforts the others, saying that Kray brought them together for some reason, which she just doesn't know. Suddenly, they are attacked by a powerful wolf monster wearing armor and carrying a weapon. Chino is terrified because she never thought the monsters there would be so powerful, but she decides to fight to fulfill the mission her master gave her. Back in Kray's office, he feels guilty for sending Tino and the others on such a dangerous mission, so he decides to go and help them himself. He pulls a book from his bookshelf to reveal a secret room where all his relics are kept. Finally, his eyes fall on a small chest containing a very special relic. When he leaves the room with everything, Eva almost mistakes him for a thief, but then she realizes that Kray just wants to help them. However, she notices a forbidden relic around his neck, but Kray hides it, saying he won't use it because it's too dangerous. He then goes to the window and tells Eva that he will be back soon. He activates the power of his robe and flies away at an insane speed. It is at this moment that ignorance becomes a blessing, because the artifact he is using to fly is a rainbow. It has no controls or brakes, and its creator died after testing it. Back in the cave, Tino's group manages to kill another monster far beyond their level, and during this encounter, Gil realizes that the mana in his sword has been completely drained after Kray released the energy from his sword during the demonstration. Greg also seems quite shaken, while Ruta breathes heavily due to, with the effort of killing just one monster, Greg thinks they should go back, as they don't have a group or level suitable for dealing with these monsters. But Chino rejects their plans, claiming that Kray sent them for a reason, and that they cannot disappoint him in any way. She even says that the fact that Gil's sword was discharged may have been part of Kray's grand plan. So she moves forward blindly believing in Kray, and soon they arrive at the objective of their mission, where they encounter several monsters waiting outside, with weapons and bows in their hands. Everyone hides behind some rocks and discusses the plan. Quickly, they decide it would be best to avoid confrontation in the open field and first try to enter the cave. Gil heroically volunteers to distract the dogs, while the others run inside. But Tino tells him that he will be instantly killed if he tries to do so. Gil claims that he still has his legendary sword, and that even without its mana, it is still a formidable weapon. But as the leader of the group, Chino rejects this idea. Instead, she decides that she and Ruta will act as distractions, while Gil and Greg attack the monsters from behind. Together, they push themselves beyond their limits and end up doing very well, managing to defeat the 4 wolves. Everyone is surprised to realize that they are capable of defeating such strong opponents. But suddenly, a few more monsters emerge from the cave, and the group immediately springs into action. While fighting, Tino observes that her team, even though it is temporary, contains people who are very strong in their own classes. And while all this was happening, Tino continues to trust Kray, thinking that he must have thought of all this beforehand, and sent them to this dungeon specifically so that they could gain more confidence. While fighting the monster, Gil remembers the time when he spoke ill of his own teammates because he thought they weren't good enough and that they couldn't keep up with him. Because of this, he left his team, but never thought about how they felt. Even though he considered them all weak, they were trying their best to keep up with him. While fighting the beast, Greg regained his balance and pushed the monster away, giving Gil the opportunity to land a big blow to the monster's chest, killing it instantly. He finally realizes how amazing it is to fight as a group, and that this time his companions are not complete idiots. Together, they advance to the next area. However, before crossing the next set of caves, Tino interrupts them, saying she senses someone's presence nearby. Greg asks if it could be the people who got lost in the cave, but Tino believes they must fight the boss monster before they can recover the injured members of the group. She says they can't grow if they only take on easy tasks, and Greg says that maybe she's right, because even after becoming a level 4 adventurer, he never advanced to higher level dungeons. Chino then says that Kray must have realized this immediately, and so he put him in this group, all so that he can face his fear and grow. She turns to the rest of her team, saying that everyone was chosen for a reason, because Kray is a god and a genius who devises the best plans. She also says that he doesn't send people on risky missions randomly. And meanwhile, outside, Kray is going crazy. He starts walking as fast as he can, and because of that, he ends up entering the dungeon like a madman. At the same time, right ahead, Tino and his group finally find the boss monster. Greg thinks this boss is too big for them, but the monster didn't ask for their opinion and just tries to hit them with his axe. They all manage to dodge the blow while running, and Chino realizes that the monster is incredibly powerful and that they need a plan to have any chance of defeating it. She notices that the boss isn't wearing a helmet and suggests that they aim for his head. She tells Gil to block the next attack, while she will try to deliver the final blow. Gil agrees to the plan without hesitation, and they all prepare to try to attack. Following the plan, Gil manages to block the attack with his sword, while Greg attacks him from behind, only to get punched in the face. Tino quickly runs towards the beast, dodging its blows. The monster tries to attack Greg again, and ends up breaking his sword. If it weren't for Tino, the monster would have killed Greg. Tino advances with the monster's axe, heading towards the creature's face. She advances with a leap, but unfortunately the monster is much faster, and ends up striking her. However, she still manages to stab the monster in the back of the neck. Fortunately, their plan works, and even though Chino is wounded, her injury can be healed with a potion. Gil and Greg are relieved to be alive, and Chino returns Greg's sword. But suddenly, she senses something and dodges a spear coming at her from the darkness. They don't understand anything, because the boss should already be dead. However, 4 boss monsters emerge from the darkness, each wielding a different weapon. And it is at this moment that even Chino admits that Kray has gone a little overboard, as one boss was enough for them. However, she doesn't want to disappoint Kray, so she stands up once again. However, she doesn't plan to fight, but to flee. Her plan is to go to a narrow cave, where the beasts couldn't chase them. But one of the monsters immediately blocks the entrance, preventing their escape. Greg and Gil suggest that the girls serve as bait, while they quickly escape through the caves. Ruta tries to argue, but Greg insists, saying that it's okay to sacrifice some so that others can survive. Chino, on the other hand, is not willing to sacrifice anyone, and wonders what Kray would do in this situation. Suddenly, she remembers the magic ring he gave her. She tells everyone to support her. Then the 3 quickly attack the monster, while Tina uses her ring to shoot an air bullet at the enemy. She charges the attack and shoots the monster in the eyes, leaving it completely disoriented. The monster begins to struggle, while Gil tries to deliver the final blow. But unfortunately, he ends up getting crushed, and when Tina tries to help, all the other monsters are already on top of them. And when it seems that all is lost, Kray enters the cave, and blasts the monster against the wall. Chino is surprised to see him there, while Greg realizes that the monsters seem to fear him. One of the monsters tries to attack him, but Kray's protective relics make him immune. He quickly fires a magical explosion using his magic rings, throwing the monster against the wall again. Then he uses a smoke bomb to provide cover and allow everyone to escape, and thanks to his intervention, everyone manages to get away alive. Kray quickly heals Tino's legs and tells everyone to follow him. However, he himself is afraid, as he has no idea what lies ahead. He continues walking with his head down, hoping that no one will notice that he is lost. But the group just believes him and follows in his footsteps. After walking aimlessly for some time, Gil asks Kray if they are heading for the exit. But Kray remains silent, Atino then intervenes, stating that he definitely has other plans, as he is leading them in a completely different direction. Inside, Kray is desperate to escape. He is afraid that Atino is angry with him for sending them on that mission. So, not knowing what to do, Kray just keeps walking. Suddenly, everyone freezes and asks how Kray knew they needed to go in that direction. Atino states that Kray knows everything, and everyone runs to the cave where they find the wounded who got lost in the vault. Kray is surprised to find them there, as he knows he only found them by pure luck. The leader of this group is badly injured, and his name is Erdolf. He thanks them for their help. But Tino tells him to thank Kray, because it was he who brought them there. Kray immediately says it was just a coincidence, but everyone believes he is just being humble. Aruda offers the medicine she has, but she doesn't have enough for everyone. To make matters worse, they are weak, as they haven't eaten in a long time. Fortunately, Kray remembers a relic he is carrying, which in this case is a bag of infinite chocolate. He distributes chocolates to everyone, temporarily saving them from hunger. Greg then starts talking to Rodolph, stating that he would never expect a level 5 group to have problems in this cave. Even Gil comments that the wolf monsters were very strong, but they weren't enough to wipe out a fully equipped level 5 group. Rodolph then reveals that the wolves never attacked them, as they didn't even see them. Instead, an incredibly strong ghost monster appeared and attacked them alone. Rodolph explains that this ghost must be a special monster, as it was powerful enough to control even the wolf bosses. He adds that he thinks the ghost may be even stronger than the Sword Saint himself, and this shocks everyone, as they know that the Sword Saint is the strongest swordsman in the Imperial capital. And while everyone absorbs this information, Kray simply eats, as he knows that the Sword Saint is his childhood friend, Luke, and he doubts that this ghost is as strong as they say, because if such a strong monster existed, Luke would have eliminated it long ago. Still, Kray knows he can't deal with this ghost, and so from the bottom of his heart, he regrets not waiting for the handsome boy, Ark, take care of this mission for him. Unfortunately for Kray, everyone inside the cave turns to him, seeking further guidance. Not knowing what to do, he just walks away from everyone, and finally decides to trick them to buy more time. He tells Chino that she is the leader of the group, and that her job is to lead. Chino isn't very confident about being the leader, but Kray says it would be good training, and encourages her to become the leader. Tino is very happy to know that Kray trusts her so much, and promises she won't disappoint. They begin to walk through the maze of caves, and soon find the cave exit visible in the distance. However, this makes them even more anxious, and they become even more concerned about the possibility of the ghost appearing. However, Rodolph tells Atino that he will act as a shield so that they can escape safely if the creature appears. Atino rejects the idea, stating that everyone is returning safely, and that Kray is with them. Suddenly, they begin to hear howls from the wolf bosses coming their way, and this immediately makes them nervous. Tino senses something incredibly strong coming his way, and even Kray can feel the presence. Then, he quickly protects her, while thinking about all the relics he possesses, including the relic that gives him extra lives. Currently, he has 5 extra lives, which means that on the 6th hit, he is practically dead. Unfortunately for them, the deadly ghost becomes visible, and he is walking toward them with a sword in his hand. This scares everyone, but to make matters worse, a second figure appears behind the ghost, and this ends up being too much pressure even for the brave Tino. She starts shaking like a dog and hides behind Kray, begging him to save them. Kray, however, stops worrying and recognizes the second figure and asks what she is doing here. Then, without saying a single word, the mysterious person kicks the ghost so hard that it ends up stuck in the cave walls. The masked woman approaches Kray, asking if everything is okay, and removes her mask to show those who are scared that she is Liz, one of Kray's groupmates. Everyone is amazed that she is so strong, but this irritates Liz, who asks them how they can be monster hunters if they don't even know who the grievers are and what the masks they wear look like. She tells Kray that she came from the city to find him, but when she arrived at the mansion, she learned that he was in a cave helping a certain group. She then asks him to step aside, as she now needs to talk to his student. She immediately goes to Tino, who was hiding behind Kray. Alice begins to humiliate the girl, saying she can't believe Tino is so useless. She complains about Tino, saying she is a stupid girl for not being able to survive such an easy cave. She also complains about the fact that Tino keeps asking Kray for help. Gil thinks this is too much and tries to stop her, but he receives the hardest kick of his life and is also thrown against the wall. Liz then continues to scold Tino until she falls completely to the ground. Unfortunately, Liz has no plans to stop complaining, and Kray is too cowardly to intervene. He waits until Tino gets on all fours and apologizes for her failures. At that moment, he thinks this is too much and finally intervenes, telling Liz that Tino did an excellent job during her mission, all thanks to her excellent training. It is at that moment, Liz completely changes her personality and becomes a sweet girl who asks Kray if she did a good job or not. Kray praises her, saying she is amazing, and she is happy. Suddenly, they realize that the ghost has reappeared from the wall, and behind it is a giant wolf carrying a gun. This angers Liz, who puts her mask back on, and when the wolf tries to shoot her, she moves so fast that time slows down, and she catches all the bullets with ease. Then she jumps towards the beast and kills it with a single kick to the head. She now turns her attention to the ghost who was preparing to attack her. She grabs the sword with her bare hands and knees the ghost in the air and then punches him into the ground. Poor Tino starts crying, and although Kray feels bad for her, he knows he shouldn't get involved, because he doesn't want to be mistreated by Liz. In the end, the ghost finally dies after Liz punches him in the head. After that, Liz finally calms down and runs to hug Kray and tell him she missed him very much. After that, they escape to safety. And the next morning, Gil returns to the training camp and gives his magic sword to Tina, saying that he wants Kray to keep it, as he is going to train from scratch once again, and his dream is to become as strong as Liz one day. But no one believes that he will be able to reach that level. Meanwhile, China thinks about the strange masks that the grievers wear, and obviously, it was Kray who ordered these masks. These masks are completely useless, as they have no opening for the wearer to see what is in front of them. Even so, Kray's friends wear these masks and believe that the masks make them stronger. And after these events, we see Kray starting to look for a slime that should be in a capsule around his neck. He received this item about a year ago from a talented alchemist in his clan. She often gave him her final products to keep, and they were always dangerous items. At the time, she told him that if he was careless with this slime and released it, it could destroy the entire capital by itself. That's why he's so scared that he can't find it. Kray knows that if he thinks too much about this matter, he will end up becoming weaker than he already is. So he convinces himself that this slime does not exist and that he did nothing wrong. He then goes to the clan building. Liz says that the Treasure Hunters Association wants a report on the White Wolf's lair. Kray tells her to send a report to Tino, since she was the team leader. However, Eva informs him that Tino is training with Liz at the moment, and he immediately feels sorry for the poor girl. He then asks Eva if anything important has happened in the capital. She tells him that nothing has happened, but that she will start investigating. However, he tells her that there is no need. He decides to pay Tino a visit and leaves everything else to Eva, who begins to think about how the ace was always right when making some kind of prediction. She believes that since he is concerned about the capital, something serious and terrible will happen soon. Meanwhile, Kray arrives at the training room and finds many grumpy hunters gathered outside the gates. A level 6 hunter named Sven tells Kray to get Ollie under control, as he is the only one who can take on a beast like her. Everyone else needs to practice too. But Sven is more concerned about Tino's death if her training continues. Kray makes a few jokes, saying that everything is fine, but when the training room gate opens, he quickly becomes frightened to see Tino lying on the floor, while Liz is threatening and insulting her, demanding that she get up to take more. When Tino doesn't get up, Liz goes berserk and decides to end her life with a powerful kick. Fortunately, Kray stops her before she can attack, and Liz stares at him menacingly, asking if he is really stopping her. He says yes, with a smile on his face, and says that Tino has reached her limit, so she should let her rest for today. Liz then quickly becomes a cute girl who obeys Kray and promises to let Tino rest. But suddenly, Tino grabs her leg, using all her strength to get up. It turns out she wants to look cool in front of Kray, so she tells Liz she can still fight. Alice quickly prepares to kill her this time, and as the two girls prepare for a second round, Kray leaves the training room because he knows he will die if he stays there. Outside, Sven thinks Kray's big plan is to motivate Tina to become stronger, and Kray lets him believe whatever he wants. After that, they sit down for tea, and Sven comments that, apparently, the White Wolf Den case has not yet been resolved, and that some ghosts are still attacking people at the north entrance. He asks Kray what they should do, but obviously Kray has no idea. In his conscious mind, Kray just misses Ark, because he is better than him at everything. Suddenly, he has an idea and decides to pass the case on to Sven and his team. He sends them to the Hunters Association to meet Gark, and tells Sven to think of it as training. Kray leaves happy, impressed with his quick problem solving, but one of C-Bem's subordinates is not impressed with him. This subordinate comments that despite being the leader, he has never seen Kray do anything worthwhile. However, C-Bem reprimands him, saying that he should not judge Kray so easily, because deep down he is a real monster. On the other hand, Gark from the Hunters Association thinks the same thing. Gark believes that although everything seems the same in the White Wolf's lair, Kray must know something that is happening because he would not go there for no reason. Far away from them, in an underground laboratory, an old wizard is also thinking about Kray's involvement in the recent case. He is a member of the secret organization called Akashic Tower, which is researching ways to create treasure vaults artificially by manipulating the energy that flows from the earth. This old wizard is the mastermind behind the plan, and he was also behind the mutation of the ghosts in the White Wolf's lair. However, he never imagined that a high-level hunter like Kray would enter the treasure vault and discover their plan. The old wizard considers him a danger and goes to another location to continue his research, as they cannot face him without the head of security, who is out of town. Meanwhile, Kray has a nightmare about a giant slime burning the entire city. He wakes up sweating because the heat of the burning city felt very real. But he soon realizes that the cause of the heat is Liz, who has crawled into his bed and is fondling his balls. However, Kray is already more than used to this, so he doesn't even react. Liz then asks if he's free, because she's officially taking time off from work and training, and there's nothing better than going out to have fun with Kray. He decides to agree to whatever plan she has, because it's much better than working. However, when they arrive at the clan building, they are shocked to find Gark, who went there because Kray kept making excuses. Gark tells Kray they need to talk, but Liz confronts him, telling him to solve his problems on his own and stop relying on Kray. Gark is furious about this and complains that Liz left a high-priority mission incomplete, but Alice calls him bald and tells him to stop disrupting their meeting. They continue arguing, and Kray thinks he is watching a battle of insults worthy of a duel. Suddenly, the verbal battle turns into a real fight. Kray then calls Gark's assistant over for a kind of civilized conversation. Meanwhile, Alice and Gark continue fighting downstairs, destroying the reception area in the process. Alice, being agile, has the advantage over Gark, even though they are equal in strength. She even taunts Gark, saying that he is getting old and that his joints must be crumbling. She also jokes that his kite probably doesn't fly anymore, and enraged by the insults, Gark uses all his strength, but Liz easily dodges him and continues to pressure him. At that moment, Kray comes down and asks them both to stop, and although Gark is unwilling to back down, Liz runs and immediately to Kray's side, clinging to him and saying that they should return to their meeting. So, each goes their separate ways, and Kray and Liz finally go out to have fun. He then asks about the level 8 vault she was exploring, and Liz replies that it was a lot of fun, and that the monsters there were she was exploring, and Liz replies that it was a lot of fun, and that the monsters there were the best, but she got bored after a while and came back to see him. Christie's thoughts return again to the slime that got lost, and he wonders if it could really put the city in danger. Liz asks him why he looks so down. He doesn't answer her and asks another question, asking her what she would do if the country were destroyed. Without even thinking, Alice replies that she would flee to a tropical island, and thus she would enjoy her long vacation. Kray is surprised by her positive and carefree attitude, and he comes to the conclusion that he should learn more from his childhood friend. Suddenly, Alice throws her bag at Kray and sets off to defeat a random man on the street. Kray panics and asks what she is doing, and Alice says that this man was stalking her. He says she is being paranoid and asks her to let him go. The man, upon seeing Kray, gets scared and runs away. Kray's strange behavior makes Liz believe that this was all part of his plan. She then asks Kray why he let him get away. She also asks him what their next step will be. Kray is confused by her questions, so he says they should just continue with their outing. The next day, Kray and Liz go to the most dangerous part of the city, and she still thinks they are on a date, but Kray denies it, saying they are going there for work, because according to the information he received from Eva, there is a drug deal going on there, the city, and she still thinks they are on a date, but Kray denies it, saying that they are going there for work. But to make this trip better, he heard that a new ice cream shop opened in the area, so he plans to check it out and then walk around the slums a bit, just to say he completed the mission. But before that, he wants to visit the ice cream shop first, and Alice gets very excited. However, the shop owner is not excited at all. It turns out that the shop owner is the same man Alice had caught before, and whom Kray let escape. He fears that Kray let him escape on purpose, and that he has now returned to capture him. This man is currently using the ice cream shop as a front for an Akasha Tower research base, and he plans to close the shop immediately. But before he can do anything, the door opens and a redhead named Sophia appears. The man quickly becomes happy, as Sophia is responsible for the organization's security. Outside, Alice grows impatient and tries to blow up the ice cream shop door, but Kray stops her, suggesting that maybe the shop won't open today. Even though she doesn't want to back down, she obeys him, and they return to the clan. Back in his office, Kray asks Liz if she knows when her sister will return. Her sister is the alchemist who created the slime, and her name is Citri. In response, Liz says that her sister may take a while to return. Kray just hopes that Citri will return before the missing slime completely destroys the city completely. At that moment, Eva arrives at the office and informs them that the Hunters Association has formed a team to investigate the White Wolf's lair. According to her, they are taking the case very seriously, to the point of sending a relic specialist to analyze the site. Kray thinks this is an exaggeration, but he is not worried, as he does not intend to go there anyway. Meanwhile, the ice cream shop owner arrives at the Akasha Tower headquarters and tells everyone that Kray has found him. He is terrified because Kray has seen through his disguise. However, he has not yet taken any action. This leaves everyone unsure of what to think, so they ask Sophia for guidance, who proposes to confront Kray and his clan directly. She assures them that they have a chance of winning, saying that even though their main enemy is at level 8, she still believes that the security system she has built is capable of taking on Kray's clan. At that moment, an old wizard from the organization gives her permission to act, recognizing that they should not avoid this battle forever. The next day, the Kray clan's building is crowded with adventurers, and upon entering, Chino is shocked by so many people and asks the young man what is going on. He explains that everyone has gathered to investigate the White Wolf's lair, and Chino thinks this is an exaggeration. But the young man says that Kray planned to send Ark first, which shows that this case is more serious than it seems, because sending a level 7 hunter like Ark to a level 3 treasure vault is the greatest proof that something unusual is happening there. So, since they cannot send Ark and his group, the association and the clan decided to gather many hunters to compensate. Soon, Kray and Eva arrive, and Kray asks if it's all a party, and Eva clarifies that everyone is going to the White Wolf's lair. She explains that since Kray mentioned Ark, she gathered several people to serve as substitutes. Kray is shocked and suggests reducing the number of people, as this would cost less money. However, this only terrifies everyone. Thinking they are being sent to their deaths, Eva tries to calm the situation, suggesting that Kray must have something important to say, but he has nothing to say. He tries to explain that the mission is not as dangerous as it seems, but the hunters refuse to believe him. He then asks Eva about the rewards and discovers that the place has released extra funds to ensure that everyone is well paid. With that settled, Kray leaves it up to the hunters to decide what to do, and they are pleased to be able to go in a large group. At that moment, Liz appears, saying that everyone there must love to reverse gear on a thick piece of log. She says that Kray's challenges are meant to make people stronger, but no one there seems to want to become as strong as she is. She then tells Kray that she will accept the mission, but that she needs Tina to go with her. However, Kray is forced to refuse her offer because he doesn't want to put Tina's life at risk, nor does he want the morale of the others to drop. He warns that everyone present will go on the mission, so Eva suggests that he take command of the group. Kray is surprised to hear this, and all the adventurers feel relieved, thinking that their safety is now guaranteed. Kray, realizing that he can no longer back down, simply promises to help them. However, he will arrive in the middle of the mission. Until he arrives, Sven, who is already in the White Wolf's lair, must take command. Before they leave, Kray warns one of the hunters to be careful of the slimes. The man doesn't understand anything and thinks Kray is just mocking him. So, the group of hunters advances toward the vault, unaware that they are actually heading to one of the secret bases of the Tower of Akasha. At the same time, the leaders of this evil organization believe that Kray has sent several hunters to deal with them. They are now all undecided about how to react. Then Sophia suggests attacking the hunters before they are ready. She explains that the defense system was designed to fight the most powerful hunters, and that only the entire Kray group working together could defeat them. However, at the moment, only Kray, Liz, and the alchemist Citri are near the capital, and Sophia already has plans to deal with Kray and Liz. And Citri is the only one she doesn't have a definitive strategy against. However, Sophia herself has a personal feud with Citri, so she declares that she will defeat her. Sophia says that Citri discovered her master's theory on creating new treasure chests, and she is also trying to replicate it. She states that they cannot let this happen, and asks the wizard for permission to use all her firepower against Citri. The wizard grants permission and appoints her as commander of the tower's forces for this battle. Meanwhile, Sven and his group have found nothing unusual. But Sven believes that Kray sent them there for some special reason. Suddenly, he receives a call. He asks his teammate to blow the emergency whistle, alerting all the other hunters. When everyone gathers, Sven shares Kray's message about the slimes, making the hunters furious that they are receiving orders from a man who didn't even have the courage to go to the site. However, Sven asks them to trust what Kray says and tells a story about how Kray once invited everyone to a flower viewing party and asked them to bring their weapons. And the moment Kray made the toast, a treasure chest appeared behind him, showing that he had foreseen everything. The hunters are impressed, and Sven emphasizes that Kray's information is more valuable than anything else they could find. Meanwhile, in Kray's office, Alice is begging for work, saying she wants to show him her fighting skills. He is irritated by her behavior and can only think about how long he will have to deal with her until these hunters solve the problem in the White Wolf's lair. His goal is to show up only at the end of the mission and take all the credit. At that moment, the alchemist Citri arrives on the scene and tells Kray that she has come to help deal with an incredibly strong and intelligent organization that could soon become a major global threat. Kray immediately kicks Liz and Tina out of the office to hear the details from Citri. Across town, Gark is also preparing. He puts on High's battle armor to enter the treasure vault and show that his glory days are not over yet. His assistant tries to stop him, saying that his bones can no longer take the pressure and that if he pushes too hard, he may end up shitting himself. Suddenly, Citri appears and shares some important information about their true enemies. Back in Kray's office, he reflects on how Citri was the only person in his circle of friends who wasn't extremely strong. She knew she could never fight on the front lines, so she decided to do something else to support her friends. At the time, it was Kraken who suggested that she become an alchemist, which led her to become the greatest alchemist of all time. Citri explains that the slime she created has the ability to quickly adapt to its environment and evolve, but it is an unstable prototype and has failed. However, she assures him that her creation would never attack her or Kray. Even so, Kray is still frightened to realize that the rest of the city is still in danger. He admits that he does not know when and how the slime disappeared, and Citri deduces that it must have escaped from the capsule through the drainage system. Kray is somewhat relieved by Citri's blind trust in him, but before he can relax, she warns him that there is something even more dangerous than the escaped slime to discuss. At the same time, in the White Wolf's lair, Sven receives information that Kray will not be joining the group anytime soon and that Liz has also been forbidden from helping them. He feels secretly relieved that he won't have to deal with Liz, so he decides to give a motivational speech to the treasure hunters. Osvin asks if they are ready to fight a slime, and all the hunters respond confidently, saying that even children can defeat slimes, and that this is not something they need to worry about. Sven, however, already expected this attitude and mentally curses Kray for not giving more useful information. At that moment, an extremely arrogant hunter decides to enter the vault on his own, claiming that planning is for losers. Sven then asks if he wants to be the monster's first victim so that they might learn something from his death. A man then gathers his companions, and amid the confusion, a shy red-haired girl raises her hand to ask a question. For some reason, she reminds him a lot of Sophia, but she claims to be just an alchemist from the Kray clan. The redhead explains that she worked alongside Citri on research about slimes. She then takes out a mysterious bottle and claims that the liquid inside can defeat any slime, regardless of its strength. After hearing this, Sven tries to motivate the hunters, telling everyone to seek victory and return alive. With that, they finally begin their investigation, and at the end of the day, they find only wolf ghosts, which are much stronger than expected, but they still haven't found any slime. Sven begins to wonder if Kray made a mistake this time. Meanwhile, the cocky idiot decides to go out and water a tree. He complains about Kray giving orders without showing up on the battlefield. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound and decides to investigate. Then he finds two mysterious men and a huge chained wolf. These guys are members of the Akasha Tower, and they are about to inject something into the wolf to turn it into a living weapon capable of decimating the hunters. The ugly hunter realizes that something is wrong and acts before the worst happens. He knocks out one of the men, but the other throws fireballs at him. He manages to block the attacks and goes after the second one, beating him up. Meanwhile, the first man injects the serum into the wolf, which begins to melt on the outside, becoming something even more dangerous. The two men then declare that the wolf will now seek mana to strengthen itself. The creature absorbs the energy of the two wizards in seconds, becoming a monstrous threat. The ugly hunter whistles to alert the others, and Sven immediately organizes everyone outside the forest. Soon after, the ugly hunter appears seriously injured, monstrous creature. The hunter whistles to alert the others, and Sven immediately organizes everyone outside the forest. Now a grotesque mixture of a ghost wolf and a slime. Sven shoots arrows to try to immobilize it, but he is unsuccessful. The mages attack with fire and ice, but they also do nothing. Sven and the healer rush to help the wounded hunter, who explains that he saw two men injecting something into the wolf, and that after that it turned into this hideous thing. The monster advances, unaffected by the attacks, and Sven decides to try physical combat, firing a series of arrows at it. But still, he has no results. He realizes that neither magic nor ordinary attacks work and warns the hunters to buy time and keep their distance. Sven then goes to the red-haired alchemist and asks for the bottle with the anti-slime product. She then explains that if the slime touches this product, it will self-destruct. Sven quickly comes up with a plan and places the bottle on the ground, luring the slime to it. When it falls on the bottle, the liquid reacts violently, causing several explosions in the monster's body. Everyone begins to think that the fight is over, but the slime absorbs the explosions and survives. Sven realizes that this plan didn't work because this monster isn't just slime, but something much more complex. It is at this moment that an ally comments that Kray never said the enemy was ordinary slime, but rather something similar to slime. Sven becomes even more irritated and immediately curses Kray. At that moment, Citri arrives on the scene to help. She says she begged Kray to let her participate in the mission in the White Wolf's lair. She then explains that the slime cannot be hurt because its mana is forming a natural barrier. Despite this, Citri, as an alchemist, is fascinated by this monster. To her, it is a unique being, and she quickly analyzes how it was created. While dodging the monster's attacks, she discovers that it is hunting people with high mana concentration to regenerate itself. Feeling sorry for this creature, which she considers a failed experiment, she decides to kill it quickly. She throws a special bottle and asks Sven to hit it with an arrow. Sven, showing his legendary accuracy, shoots and hits the bottle right on the monster's head. The liquid inside is an anti-mana material that nullifies this slime's defenses. At that moment, Gark arrives at the scene fully armed, surprising Sven. Citri explains that she asked Gark for a ride because, unlike Liz, she cannot simply run off into the forest. Even so, Gark's presence does not seem to clarify anything for Sven. Citri then explains that she has a theory about who is behind all this. She leads the group to a camp and reveals the existence of the Tower of Akasha, led by Master Noctis. The hunters comment that Noctis was banished from the Imperial capital a long time ago. But Citri then asks them if they really believe that banishment solves anything. She explains that the vault where they are is the base of the Tower of Akasha, and Talia suggests that the tower must have valuable equipment hidden there. And Citri agrees. She states that the organization is preparing for war and that they need to act quickly. She is determined to stop them, and to do so, she asks everyone to follow her. She says she is not Kray, but she will still do her best. Later, Wilivrion prepares for battle. Citri is praised by Sven's assistant, but he asks that no one underestimate this girl, as she uses her weakness to her advantage to win by any means possible. In this sense, she is a monster like the other grievers. On the other hand, Alice is squeezing herself into Kray's lap, as she asks him to let her help Citri because her sister is very weak, but he refuses to let her go. At the same time, in the depths of the White Wolf's lair, in the Akasha Tower hideout, we see some extras reading an instruction manual left behind by Sophia. She wrote that they should release the captured ghosts one by one, but the men disagree with this because it will be too easy for the hunters to defeat them. And although their master has given Sophia full authority, the men believe that a woman cannot know anything about war, so they must take control of the situation. Therefore, they decide to ignore her instructions and release all the ghosts at once. Outside the cave, Citri and the other adventurers are interrogating the two members of the Akasha Tower they captured. Citri promises to release them if they can tell her the location of their master Noctis, but the two idiots are ready to sacrifice their lives for their master. However, this was just a mean question from Citri, as she only wanted to confirm that Noctis was indeed the mastermind behind the entire operation. She tells the two prisoners that she can make them talk the easy way or the hard way. They refuse to talk, so she takes a truth serum to use on them, saying that for now, this will be the easy way. The men say that manipulating the minds of others is against the law, but Citri doesn't seem to care about that, and even Garqui sides with her. In the end, she assures everyone that she was just playing mind games and that her truth serum is just juice. She drinks it all, and suddenly, a thunderous roar shakes the camp. Everyone goes outside and find a giant wolf slime coming toward them. This time, the creature is red and faster than the previous one. Citri then says that they will need to analyze the barriers around the creature in order to destroy it, and to do that, she needs them to buy her some time. and despite being terrified, the people do as she says, and the monster quickly blows her shield to smithereens. Citri then orders the wizards to attack the creature from all sides, and thus she discovers that the creature's magical barrier makes it immune to combat attacks with the monster, hand to hand. So she wonders how they can deal with this when suddenly a blue wolf slime appears, and everyone panics and thinks they should retreat immediately. But Citri says she didn't know that the Akasha Tower had idiots in charge, since they were supposed to be an organization of researchers. She tells everyone to stop attacking and retreat to a safe place, and when they do so, the two monsters face each other. They then begin fighting. Citri explains that slime wolves go after enemies with the most mana, which causes them to attack their own teammates. Soon, more slime wolves appear and start fighting each other, and the two prisoners are shocked to see their powerful weapon fail. Back at the base, Noctis lectures the idiots who made this mistake, because the idiots didn't stop being stupid, even after seeing the first two monsters fighting each other. Sophia contacts contact with them via a communication device and tells them that they can't do anything against the monsters right now. However, she tells everyone that the situation outside has changed, because Citri and Gark have joined the hunters. Noctis panics when he hears Gark's name, but Sophia says they still have a good chance of winning. She says retreating is not an option, because the hunters have two of their men as prisoners, and even if they don't say anything, Citri will discover the location of their base sooner or later. She says they must lure the enemy and then destroy them with a master trump card. First, she plans to use a very strong beast to overwhelm the hunters. But since that beast is still being trained, someone needs to take control of it. She tells the idiot named Flick, who messed up the last task, that this is his chance to redeem himself for his sins and show his full potential. Flick is provoked by her words and swears before Noctis that he will lure the hunters to their base. Back at the treasure hunter's base, Talia watches Citri busy at work and begins to think about how Citri has always been a genius who had no competition. She was extremely motivated and hardworking, and Talia always felt insecure about being in her shadow. Suddenly, Sven approaches her and pulls her out of her thoughts. He starts talking about how her anti-mold medicine didn't work on the previous monster because it wasn't a slime. He says that Kray should have given them more details, so he quickly changes the subject and asks why the two prisoners are looking at her. Talia says she has no idea why, and Sven asks her to scream if anything happened. Shortly after that, Citri discovers the location at the base of the Akasha Tower by analyzing the terrain and mana flow in the region. Everyone is surprised, and then Citri asks the prisoners if her guess is correct, and their panicked reactions are enough to confirm her theory. They immediately call out to the redhead, calling her Sophia and asking her to free them. The hunters wonder what they are talking about, and Citri says that Sophia is her enemy and a student of Noctis. She has been trying to find her for a long time, but has never been able to find more than a trace. Therefore, she believes that capturing Sophia and Noctis is absolutely necessary to destroy the Tower of Akasha, and plans to settle the score with Sophia once and for all. Not far from them, Kray, Liz, and Tino are approaching the base. Basically, Liz dragged him here, and Kray believes he will die because his relics are not fully charged, and he also does not have enough safety ring. Back at the camp, the hunters are heading to the box tower base, and the ugly hunter tells Citri that if he had believed Kray's words earlier, he wouldn't have lost his arm. He is now eager to learn more about Kray, and Citri tells him that he is a man who will one day become a level 10 hunter. The ugly man is surprised to hear this, but after everything that has happened today, he has faith that Kray is someone very strong, and Citri tells him that Kray is strong. However, even if he were weaker than a rabbit, he would still be the best treasure hunter among them. At that moment, lightning flashes through the clouds, attracting everyone's attention. The next instant, a powerful bolt of lightning is fired directly at Citri. The spell was fired by the man named Flick, who is riding the flying lion monster. He boasts about his supreme spell that can kill anyone instantly. All the hunters are knocked out, and he says that now he will prove that his master is better than Sophia. However, to his shock, Citri suddenly gets up and says she is used to this level of spell because she has faced worse things in a high-level treasure chest. Flick panics because this spell was instant death, but Citri shoots herself with a water pistol, instantly healing herself. She then attacks Flick and knocks him down. But before she can finish him off, the lion monster knocks her down. But just as she attacks him, Gark appears and cuts the monster in half with his axe. And Citri continues to heal everyone with her little water pistol. Back at the base, Noctis is furious because the idiot Flick only took one of the monsters with him. He should have taken them all. His subordinates tell him that Flick's final attack was useless and that the hunters are still coming towards their base. They suggest that Noctis flee while they hold off the hunters, but he opposes this idea. He declares that he still has one trump card, Sophia, and until they have both lost, he cannot abandon the base. He says that watching over his disciples' battles is his duty, and everyone is moved to tears. Noctis orders them to continue fighting with all their might, and his subordinates swear that they will win. Meanwhile, Sitter and the others find the entrance to the Tower of Akasha, but Cybum thinks they shouldn't go in unprepared. However, Gargly says he is all the preparation they need. He asks Sitter and Cybum to trust him and enter the cave, as he wants to show Liz how strong he is. So, they advance toward the cave, but the members of the Akasha Tower are ready to face them with their flying lions. However, this is just a ploy to buy time while Noctis activates their trump card in his laboratory. He presses a few buttons and suddenly a stone statue shatters and a golem emerges from it. Noctis says that this is the Akasha Tower's greatest weapon, and he is confident that his enemies will not be able to defeat it. The golem goes out of the cave, where Gark is ready to fight it. Seeing their best fighter cornered, the members of the Tower of Akasha decide to go on the offensive. They fly well above the reach of Sven and the other attackers. And while everyone is busy fighting or waiting for their turn, the two prisoners try to cut the ropes that bind their hands. One of the flying lions attacks Sven and wounds him, but he heals himself and tells his friends not to let the group's morale drop. Things look terrible for the treasure hunters, but suddenly Liz arrives on the scene and hits one of the flying lions with her super speed, knocking it down instantly. Everyone is excited because now they have Liz to help them, and Sven tells them to move forward. On the other hand, Kray and Tino are alone in the forest, and Kray is a little worried because Alice has run off to fight, and now he doesn't have a reliable bodyguard. Suddenly, Tino senses a presence. She alerts Kray and asks if she should deal with whoever is near them, but he asks her to leave them alone, believing they are just wild animals. However, the people Tino sensed are the prisoners of the Tower of Akasha, and they are confused and wonder why Kray is leaving them alone, since they are enemies. What they don't know is that Kray doesn't even know they exist. Kray decides to keep moving forward, but the power in his night vision goggles runs out, so he asks Tino to lead the way. Back on the battlefield, Liz is completely defeating the flying lions, and she also mocks the treasure hunters, asking how they couldn't handle it. She calls her sister, Citri, weak, and Citri asks what the hell she's doing here, and Alice says she managed to convince Kray. Now she moves quickly, attacking the golem. However, the creature is more powerful than she expected. She continues with her strategy of attacking the golem at full speed, pushing it back and causing it to break little by little. Gark doesn't want to be defeated by her, so he attacks the golem with his axe, freezing it at the point of impact. The golem falls to the ground while Sven aims at it. The creature is drained of energy for a while, but then recovers and prepares to attack again. Gark swings his ice axe at the golem, but now it dodges the attack and jumps high above him. No one can believe that this creature is so agile, and it reminds them of a companion of Kray's, who is almost the same size as the golem and is just as agile. Liz wonders if this golem was modeled after her friend, but it doesn't matter, because she just needs to destroy it. She jumps to attack it, but the golem reveals a cannon and fires it at her. The energy bullet grazes Liz's belly, and she is forced to move away, because she is not good at dealing with long-range attacks. She keeps running while Golem shoots at her, and Citri thinks it will be easy to destroy the golem, even with her sister's offensive power. Therefore, she must try to drain its battery. Liz takes this personally and attacks the golem to prove she can defeat it. She hits the golem with a powerful combo that knocks it down, while Gark helps with his attacks. However, the golem uses thrusters on its back to fly away, and Liz gives up on defeating it. At that moment, Kray arrives on the scene and asks everyone how they are doing. He is not bothered in the least by the giant golem in front of them, and now everyone is sure that the fight will end, since the strongest hunter has arrived. Suddenly, the golem starts flying towards Kray, and Tina clings to him in fear. However, Kray continues to act normally, and suddenly, the golem is defeated before he can touch Kray. The golem loses its strength when it hits the wall. Everyone asks what kind of secret move Kray used this time. But what they don't know is that Kray didn't even see the golem coming toward him, because his lenses ran out of mana. He asks Chino why everyone is acting like something big has happened, but she says nothing. Thus, the fight finally ends, and the treasure hunters invade the base of Akasha's tower, confiscating everything they find along the way. Kray receives a report from Citri, who thanks him for sending Liz to support her at the right moment. However, the fight is not over yet, and she plans to destroy Akasha's tower personally from within. On the other hand, the two escaped prisoners meet up with Noctis and the others who fled the base after losing the battle. The two men are certain that the alchemist Rui is among the treasure hunters. It is Sophia, and they tell Noctis that she has infiltrated the enemy base, so she may be able to do something for them. However, Noctis no longer has the courage to fight Kray. as he cannot imagine what will happen next. He decides to leave the Empire and asks his men to call Sophia back. Meanwhile, Kray attends a meeting with Gark and a government official who wants him to tell them everything he knows about the Tower of Akasha. But he knows nothing and tells them exactly that. He asks them both to talk to Citri about it, as she was in charge, and the government official becomes nervous upon hearing her name. 3 years ago, there was a mass prison break, and all evidence pointed to Citri. As a result, she was demoted to the 2nd tier and her title was also revoked. However, Gark personally intervened to prove her innocence. Since then, government officials have avoided her. Back at the makeshift base at Akasha Tower, Noctis' disciples have captured Talia and brought her to him. She is very afraid of them and asks what they are going to do with her, and Noctis asks her to give up the act. However, the girl continues to insist that she is not Sophia. And when a flying lion appears hostile towards her, Noctis realizes that she is telling the truth. At that moment, the real Sophia appears with a bottle of wine, and everyone is surprised. Sophia, however, does not react even after seeing her doppelganger, and tells Noctis that they look identical. But there is a noticeable difference between them. Suddenly, she takes off her wig and cloak to reveal that she is actually Citri, and everyone panics. Noctis asks how she dares to cosplay as Sophia, and Citri tells him that she herself is the Sophia he knows. Everyone is shocked to hear this, and only now realize that Citri has been manipulating them from the beginning. She tells them that this is not true, and that she joined the Akasha Tower because she was very impressed with the work Noctis had done. She still greatly respects his curiosity and thirst for knowledge, and helped him with all her heart because she really wanted to see the results of his research. However, she tells Noctis that now they need to stop this. She tells him that the reason Kray let his men go, despite catching them and taking no action against them until the end, was because he was warning her to stop this and come back to him. She assures Noctis that she didn't say anything, but Kray has the power to see through lies. She says she set up a whole stage so they could test their research against high-level hunters, and the tests went very well. However, when Golem attacked Kray last night, she quickly intervened to stop him, as she didn't want Golem to be destroyed. She tells everyone that the research has been confiscated and that they will all be arrested, but she will keep the research going. And since the person named Sophia never existed, she will never be found, and all the blame will fall on Noctis. Citri then goes to her assistant, saying that her unique red hair stood out in the crowd, so she borrowed her appearance. The girl starts crying and breaks down, and then the disciples of the Tower of Akasha try to attack her, but Citri commands the flying lion to help her, and everyone backs away. Noctis, however, uses a powerful fire attack that kills the lion, but Citri is unharmed because she prepared for this. She also found the slime that Kray had lost, and it absorbed the attack to protect her. Suddenly, the slime begins to eat the lion's body, while Citri explains that this is her best work, as this slime can grow constantly by eating mana. Noctis panics upon hearing this, because it means that the slime has the potential to devour the entire earth. And Citri says she just wanted to test its performance against a powerful wizard like him. Suddenly, her disciples activate a smoke bomb and tell him to run away, while they hold off the slime. However, when Noctis is running away, he bumps into someone very muscular at the door and falls down the stairs. Noctis is terrified when he sees him. Then Citri appears, saying that she wanted to become stronger to match the rest of her friends. But creating golems is time-consuming and expensive, so she decided to create a pet chimera. To do this, she broke into a high-security prison and used all the escaped criminals as raw material to make this chimera. Noctis realizes that he is facing the most cruel person he has ever met, and Citri puts on her mask and says that he will become excellent raw material for her. The chimera kills the old man, and everyone else is arrested after Citri erases their memories. She also erases her assistant's memories and reveals to Kray that everything ended very well. She says she will be more careful when handling the materials next time, but he doesn't quite understand what she is talking about, and just agrees with everything. Shortly after that, Kray and Citri meet with Gark and government representatives to discuss the items confiscated from the Akasha Tower base. Kray says he would like to keep the Akasha Tower golem, as well as those other pieces of junk. The government officials are shocked, and although they understand why Kray is asking for the golem, they ask why he wants the other dangerous things. Kray doesn't have very good hearing, so he simply replies that he wants everything, and everyone begins to worry about his mental health. In the end, the officials agree to deal with everything except the golem. Citri then thanks Kray for negotiating on her behalf, and immediately goes to fetch the fearsome flying lions. Meanwhile, Gark approaches Kray with troubling news. He reports that a group of treasure hunters, led by a famous level 7 hunter, has recently arrived in the capital. Their leader is named Arnold, but Kray does not know who he is. Gark then laughs and says that Arnold is someone who killed a dragon. He pats Kray on the back and asks him not to cause trouble with Arnold. And since Kray is very weak, this simple pat was strong enough to destroy one of his safety rings. After that, Gark leaves, and Kray notices a poster for the big relic auction that will take place soon. Kray really wants to attend the event, as it usually has the best and rarest relics. But unfortunately, he doesn't have much money in the bank. He begins to wonder if he should borrow money from Sitter, even though he has never paid back the money he borrowed from her. At that moment, a receptionist approaches him and introduces herself as Chloe, Gark's niece. She comments that her uncle seemed to be in a good mood at that moment. Then Kray says that they were talking about a new guy. He mispronounces Arnold's name completely. Citri arrives at that moment, and she leaves accompanied by Kray, passing by Arnold's group and his other treasure hunters on the way. When they reach a private room, Citri reveals a cute baby, a very powerful creature that she has trained not to harm her or even Kray. The baby jumps on Kray to play with him, but even the simple touches of this creature are strong enough to break Kray's security rings. Fortunately, Citri takes it away before Kray loses all his security rings. Kray then stops worrying about this creature. After all, he needs to carry his relics. However, he discovers that the mage of the group could not return home because they are facing a very strong boss monster in the dungeon. Fortunately, at that moment, Citri gives him a special relic that can save a spell for emergencies. Kray already has one of these, but Citri asks him to keep this relic and perhaps use it on the ring finger of his left hand. After that, she gives Kray a massage on Kray. When Kray tells her that his relics are out of mana, she asks him to leave everything to her. Citri gathers all the treasure hunters and tells them that today they will have special training in magic cultivation techniques created especially by Kray. She warns them that it will be difficult training, but that those who complete it will become magicians of the same level as Lu. Everyone is shocked to hear this, but since Citri said that Kray invented this method, they believe her. Suddenly, two elves stand up, wanting to test these new methods. Chris belittles Kray, telling him to greet his sister properly, as she is much better than him at everything. But Lapis asks Kray to behave, but even she doesn't have a very positive opinion of Kray. He knows that elves live long lives and have exceptional talents when it comes to magic, so they despise anyone who isn't a great wizard. Lapis asks Citri if she is sure that this training can turn anyone into a mage like Lucia, whom even the elves respect. Citri replies that she is, and explains that Lucia became strong through similar training. Suddenly, a mage from Sven's group named Mary volunteers to be the first, even though she is very nervous about the training. However, the training ends up being a little disappointing, as she only has to charge Kray's relics, which is very difficult, because the ring never gets fully charged, no matter how much mana Mary pours into it. Citri tells her to keep going, and after much effort, Mary finally charges the ring. Citri then tells her that there is more where that came from, and makes her charge the magic rings one by one. Finally, Mary faints from exhaustion, and Citri explains that most people's mana capacity reaches a limit in their teens, and that they cannot grow beyond that. However, if they manage to exhaust all the mana in their bodies, there is a chance to increase this upper mana limit by a small percentage. Hunters complain that this method is impractical, because it takes too long for them to recharge their mana, even for elves. But Citri has the solution. She takes a special medicine and pours a few drops into Mary's mouth, causing her to wake up quickly and then faint due to the medicine's horrible taste. Citri tells everyone that Mary's mana capacity has increased with the medicine and that her mana has also been recharged. She explains that this is how Lucia became so strong. She wasn't born with the overwhelming power she has, but worked hard, and drank a lot of this medicine to get where she is. Everyone is shocked, even Kray, who didn't know that Lucia had to go through this after carrying her relics. After that, Citri begins to provoke the elves, asking if they are not capable of doing what Lucia did, despite being a race that prides itself on its magic. So, the elves accept the challenge, and Citri calls her Chimera, with a bag containing all of Kray's relics. Kray begins to carry them one by one, and the other wizards of the clan also begin to work to become stronger. After that, Kray and Citri go to Liz's house, and this shameless girl comes out of the shower without clothes because she forgot her towel outside. Citri closes Kray's eyes so he doesn't see his sister naked in front of him, and after a short discussion, Kray tells Liz that he was planning to throw a party to celebrate her and her sister's return. Liz wants to hug Kray a lot because of this, but Citri manages to hold her back. And then, Kray says that Chino will also go with them. They go to a restaurant to eat and drink. Liz and Citri argue with each other the whole time. Citri challenges her sister to a drinking game and puts poison in her sister's drink when she isn't looking. However, Kray decides to switch the jugs, and Citri ends up drinking the spiked drink. She gets drunk very quickly because of this and starts attacking Kray. Kray, saying that he considers her a walking bag of coins. She asks him if he remembers what day he was killed, how much money he owes her, and then says that Kray must pay her with his own body. Before she can get close to him, a lion throws herself on her and pins her to the floor. Suddenly, they hear a commotion and discover that one of the treasure hunters bumped into a guy named Arnold, who has a very short temper and loves to pick fights. His minions tell everyone to treat him with respect, because he is a dragon slayer and a level 7 hunter. Hear that. Alice and Citri are curious about him. Arnold says loudly that he wants girls and drinks. Suddenly, Liz walks up to him, saying she's there to fulfill both requests, and tells her to go home. This angers Liz, and she pours the drink on his head. Everyone is horrified by this, and suddenly, Liz, furious, smashes the jug on his head. She calls him weak and unworthy of being an S rank. Arnold can't even react, until Kray arrives and takes Liz away, apologizing to Arnold, saying she is drunk. The next day, Eva tells Kray more about the hunter Liz attacked yesterday, and says that their group was clearly at fault for attacking without provocation. She says they should apologize to Arnold and his group, because he did indeed defeat a lightning dragon, and they should not make him an enemy. Kray hopes that Liz's blow was strong enough to make him forget what happened, but Eva asks him to arrange a meeting with Arnold and ask Gark to act as a mediator. And speaking of Arnold and the lightning dragon, Kray suddenly says that the dragon would surely taste divine if grilled properly. Eva is shocked to hear this, as the entire body of a dragon can be used as a precious ingredient, and no one in their right mind would dare to eat it. Kray tells her that Citri once prepared a dragon steak for him, and that it tasted very good. He reflects on how good lightning dragons must taste, and then asks Eva not to take him seriously, because he is just craving meat. On the other hand, Arnold's minions are angry about the treatment at the bar, but Arnold is forced to admit that Liz is really very strong, but he doesn't want to let the matter go so easily, so he takes his team to the guild. The receptionist there asks if they are here to file a complaint, as she has heard that they were assaulted at the bar. A man with a strange hairstyle tells her that they are not here to file a complaint, but to find out the name of the girl who attacked their boss. At that moment, Gark arrives and tells Arnold that the girl he is looking for is named Liz, and her nickname is Suffocating Shadow, a very peculiar name that was given to her because of the speed and silence of her movements. Arnold asks him who the hell he is, and Gark introduces himself. He says he knew Arnold's group would be arriving in town soon, and that he had already warned Liz's guardian, but apparently he forgot. This makes Arnold's minions even more furious that someone forgot their boss. And then, Gark says they must have seen Kray at the bar. He says that despite his laid-back attitude, Kray is actually a level 8 treasure hunter, affectionately nicknamed Thousand Tricks. The minions are terrified to hear this, but Gark calms them down, saying that Kray does not tolerate bullying. As long as they don't do anything wrong, he will probably keep Liz under his control. Then he says that Kray actually sent them a message and takes a small note out of his pocket. The note says that a lightning dragon must be very delicious, and that Arnold should bring him some of the dragon's meat. After delivering the message, Gark leaves. But now Arnold is furious. He interprets the message as an insult and a challenge, and tells his men to prepare for a fight. Meanwhile, in his office, Kray tells Eva that his debt to Citri has reached 10 digits, and she panics upon hearing this. Kray waits for her to calm down, and says that Citri has suggested 2 solutions. The first solution is to send her to jail, which will erase the debt issue. But Kray obviously can't do that. The second solution is for him to accept her as his fiancée, as this would be a family expense and would not incur further debt. Kray then jokes that perhaps marriage is the only way to erase her debt, but then asks Eva not to be angry, promising that he will pay everything. She tells him that if he doesn't accumulate more debt, he will be able to pay Citri with the income he receives from his group, but that will be difficult, as the big auction is coming up. At the same time, Arnold's minions are trying to find information about Kray, but all they can find out is that he has the ability to see the future, and that he doesn't even go on missions anymore because they are too boring for him. They return to base and tell Arnold, who says that this is all nonsense, and that people have made these things up because they don't know the truth. However, he can't deny these rumors because Kray is a level 8 hunter, so he thinks Kray must be a strategist who achieved this rank by commanding his group. Arnold doesn't think Kray is weak, but he is confident that he can't match a level 7 fighter like himself. Meanwhile, Kray tries to forget his debt by enjoying the sun, when suddenly, Tino jumps onto his balcony, because she thought he was smiling at her. She asks what she can do for him, and Kray jokingly says that he needs money. She is discouraged to hear this, but still offers to lend him some money from her savings. Kray says he won't accept anything from her because he has a 10-digit debt to Citri. Chino is shocked to hear this, But when Kray tells her that the debt can simply disappear if he marries Citri, she immediately coughs up blood, believing that Citri is trying to monopolize him. Kray tells her that it was just a joke and says that they can take a walk to lighten the mood. On the way, Tino suggests that he go to some high-level vault and find some relics that will earn him a lot of money, but Kray doesn't want to die trying. At the same time, Arnold and his group are looking for the clan's building and are shocked to see Kray alone in front of them. Kray remembers them from the bar, and the men prepare to attack him. Tino tells them to go to the basement, where they find Kray alone in front of them. Kray remembers them from the bar, and the men prepare to attack him. Tino tells them to go to the basement, where they find Kray alone in front of them. Tino tells them to go ahead, but they ask her to step aside because they have nothing against her. Suddenly, Kray apologizes to the group for what they did and says he is ready to surrender if they want. But unfortunately, Tino can't allow that to happen. But Kray silences her, saying that they really shouldn't fight here. Tino then tells the group that Kray doesn't want to fight them because he's worried about accidentally killing weak people like them. Kray tells her to stop, but she doesn't and continues to insult Arnold's team, which makes them all very angry. And Arnold ends up rejecting Kray's offer to end things peacefully. And then Kray says that if they are going to fight anyway, they should do it the right way. He goes to the middle of the main street and gets everyone's attention, hoping that some of his clanmates will show up, but there are none around. One of the men tells him to stop wasting time, and Kray tells him to be patient, calling him by a random name, and the man is shocked, because apparently he said his real name. He asks Kray how he knew that, and Arnold tells his companion to stop falling into the enemy's trap. He confronts Kray, saying he knows he reached level 8 because of luck and the power of his friends, and reveals that he knows he is very weak on his own. Tino is offended by this. She tells Arnold that she will not let anyone speak ill of her master. Arnold her determination, but knows she is no match for him. Tino turns to Kray, asking for permission to fight for her honor, and Kray, as if it were a joke, tells her to go ahead. This makes even the great Arnold nervous, as he thought Kray would do something smarter and prevent the girl from fighting. But he says that since Tino wants this, he will respect her wishes. Tino begins to attack Arnold, who simply blocks her attacks. Meanwhile, Kray looks around to see if anyone strong from his clan is arriving. Tina tells him to keep his attention on her. Then Kray starts cheering her on, saying that she will surely win if she tries hard. This makes Arnold furious, and he knocks Tina to the ground, and then asks Kray who he thinks he is. Kray says he is no one special, but that he will not let anyone harm his people. He takes the unique relic Lucia gave him and decides to use it to subdue Arnold. He remembers the time he asked Lucia to create a powerful long-range spell that could defeat an enemy without hurting them, and that would also not hit any bystanders. Lucia told him that this was an impossible request, but in the end, she created the spell Kray needed. Now, he uses this gravity magic to pin Arnold and his men to the ground. Arnold asks if he is a wizard, but Kray says he doesn't care about any class. He releases the strip from the effect of his spell and tells Arnold that if he wants to fight again, he must follow the proper procedures, as he is challenging a clan master. So the proper way to do this is to first defeat the 3 strongest groups in his clan, and only after that can he challenge him again. And these groups are led by very powerful people, like Ark and Sven. Arnold starts screaming, cursing Kray's life, but then he loses consciousness because of the spell. After that, Kray takes Tina out for dessert. She feels bad for not being able to meet his expectations. He tells her not to worry about it, but she asks him to tell her the location of a chest of precious relics so she can retrieve them for him, and that way he can pay off part of his debt. Meanwhile, Liz trains with a golem made by Citri, but is disappointed because it is only a replica, so she asks Citri to bring the original. But she says that the original is with the investigation department. She tells Liz about how Tino fought with Arnold, and says that it must have been a difficult fight for poor Tino. Citri says that Kray helped in the end, and asks her sister if they should take care of Arnold's group. But Liz believes they should leave them alone, unless Kray orders them to. Kray meets with Chloe, saying he doesn't understand why Arnold and the others are mad at him. Then she points out that it's because, although Arnold is a level 7 hunter, Kray seems to completely ignore his existence. She asks him what his first impression of Arnold was, and Kray says that Arnold must like women with large breasts, since he wasn't interested in Alice. We then see that in the past, Chloe tried to join Kray's clan, but was easily defeated by Luke and failed the test. So she gave up being a hunter and became a receptionist for the association. She asks Kray why she failed the test 3 years ago, because at the time he told her she had potential. So, if she had potential, she wants to know what was missing for her to become an adventurer in his clan. In response, he says she should already know. After he leaves, he remembers why she failed the test 3 years ago, and it was actually because she was too young at the time. and he knows that if she tried to do it now, Gark would end up beating him up, so it's better for her to stay in her current position. Chloe then wonders if Kray's refusal to give her a straight answer is one of his 1,000 attempts to find out everything on her own. She thinks he believes that just giving her an answer will not benefit her, so she decides to keep thinking about the real answer, and until she finally understands it, she will continue to do her duty in the association. After that, we see Arnold getting shocked when Chloe tells him what Kray said about him, and the other member tells him to stay calm, saying that Kray is just trying to provoke him. But they can't believe it when Chloe says that Kray himself claimed that Arnold only likes women with big breasts. Now, in order for Arnold to challenge Kray again, he will have to fight the 3 strongest groups in his clan. And when one of the strongest groups shows up and Arnold challenges them, they refuse to fight them. This makes Arnold very angry. His companions tell him not to act rashly, saying that an auction will soon take place where they can obtain new equipment, and that perhaps they will be able to sell the relic that was rejected in their homeland. Meanwhile, Kray and Chino go to a man named Matties to show him a relic that Chino found. He mentions that it is an external relic, saying that it is probably an item from a high-level magical tool organization. This makes Kray very excited. He is curious about its effect, but Matties says that he cannot activate it without knowing what it does, so he will need to keep it for a while. He says he is very busy with many appraisal requests since the auction is about to begin. Kray wants to see the relics, so while he is busy talking to Tino, he allows Kray to take a look at them. Matties tells Tino to take care of herself, saying that she reminds him of his granddaughter and that she should rely on her friends if anything happens. He says that even Kray can be helpful sometimes, and she says that even though Kray is strict, he is a wonderful person. Therefore, compared to him, she is nothing. Matties gets angry and asks what Kray is teaching her, but Kray is too focused on the relics. He discovers a relic called Reverse Face, which can change the face of its user. Unfortunately, the relic similar to the one he had was destroyed by Liz, so he wants another one so he can go out without worry. Unfortunately, at that moment, Matties tells him to leave, saying he has a lot of work to do. But Kray tells him to contact the owner of this relic, because he wants to deal with it directly. After that, Tino asks Kray how he will get the money, and he says that a relic like that is not sold in stores because it can be used for crimes, so he cannot pass up this opportunity. On the way, they come across a carriage with a noble coat of arms. Tina mentions that it is the coat of arms of a very important noble family, but she is confused about what they are doing there, since nobles hate hunters. They see a girl named Eclair meeting with Ark, who says he wanted to see where Ark spends his time. She says she hates hunters, but that she likes Ark very much because he has great dignity. She sees Kray looking at her, so she asks him to stop looking, which makes Tina angry, but Kray quickly holds her back. Kray introduces himself to Eclair, and she says her father told her about him, but seeing him in person, she can't sense any strength in him, so she can't believe that Kray is of a higher level than her love, Ark. She asks if he bought his status with money, and asks him why he doesn't try to defend himself. He then says that he is always careful with his behavior, as he was taught to have good manners. After she leaves, Kray asks Ark if he has money. Ark says yes, but refuses to lend it to him, as he knows that Kray must have found another relic. Kray tells him that he needs to get it. Then Ark asks him what the relic can do. But when Kray says he can't tell him, Ark tells him he can't help him. Kray starts asking everyone to lend him money. And so, a rumor spreads around town that he is looking to buy a powerful relic at auction. After seeing that he has no other choice, he goes to Citri and apologizes for asking her for more money, even though he said he would pay his debt. She notes that their relationship has always been like this and says that her research will be delayed a little, but that she has obtained money by selling spare materials. She notes that since he really needs the relic, she will put her needs aside, and even offers to ask the bank for a loan if the money is not enough. Kray hopes that the owner of the relic will not ask too much for it, but is shocked when he sees that the relic belongs to Arnold's group. Arnold's companion tells them that this is a rare relic that they brought from the land of mist, so they won't sell it for little money. But Citri tells them that it looks scary. Arnold's companion says that they can simply put it up for auction. But Citri says that nobles don't buy relics that don't look good, so it won't sell for a high price. Arnold says that they don't even know what the relic's effect is. Therefore, they can't put a price on it. But he thinks Kray must know what it can do, since for some reason he is very willing to buy it. Kray refuses to tell him anything, but notes that the relic is dangerous, and that's why it has been restricted by law. So he tells them that it's best to sell it. Arnold wonders why he wants this relic so badly, since it is so dangerous that they cannot sell it. Arnold begins to wonder if Kray is trying to lure them into a trap. He believes that the relic may indeed be a dangerous item, and that Kray may be trying to get them to keep it. so he decides to sell it for 10 million coins, because he knows that this relic is of no use to them, since they don't know how to use it, and falling into Kray's trap by keeping it would be the worst case scenario. And so, he suggested a price they couldn't refuse. Kray accepts, and Arnold is happy thinking he has won the negotiation. But Kray asks Citri if it is okay to buy it for such a cheap price. She says that they were the ones who suggested a price. Then, when they are about to buy it, other hunters start offering more money for it, and Eclair offers 100 million to buy it. After that, Eva tells Kray that everyone thinks it's the strongest relic in the world, since he was borrowing money to buy it. But Kray mentions that its only use is to avoid being recognized. She tells him to stop increasing his debt. But Citri arrives with 800 million coins and reveals that she was saving this money for her wedding to Kray, but that she will spend it all for his sake. Eva is furious with her for allowing Kray to spend her money, so they end up arguing. After that, Kray and Citri go to meet Eclair to discuss the relic. She admires his attitude of presenting himself so openly, but tells him that the only thing he has to overcome Ark is his level. He reveals that some people really comment that Ark is his enemy, being his main rival, but he doesn't think so. He considers Ark a friend. She thinks Kray is mocking Ark, so she takes his sword and starts saying that Kray must have gathered many relics to reach level 8, which means his strength is fake. She then decides to win the relic at the auction and give it to Ark to help him become stronger. But Kray tells her that Ark wouldn't be happy about that, because a relic isn't what makes a person strong. Upon hearing this, Eclair starts crying, saying she will get the relic and give it to Ark. Ark wouldn't be happy about it, because a relic isn't what makes a person strong. Upon hearing this, Eclair starts crying, saying she will get the relic, no matter what. But Citri tells her that even though she is a noble, she doesn't have an unlimited amount of money. Citri knows that Eclair only has 100 million and reveals that their budget is 200 million. Therefore, her defeat is already guaranteed. But she says that if Eclair manages to raise more than 200 million, they will admit defeat. Eclair ends up telling her father about the situation, and he says that they cannot back down because it would tarnish the family name. So he asks his advisor how much they can spend. He says they can take 500 million coins from the family's savings, plus a 500 million loan from a company. But he says the loan will have high interest rates. Eclair says that Kray's budget is only 200 million, so they only need more than that. But the advisor tells her that no competitor would reveal their actual budget. Her father tells her to win at all costs, no matter what happens. And soon after that, we learn that Citri has a budget of 950 million. But she is still not sure they can win. Kray tells her she has done enough, and Alice offers to steal the relic if they lose. But Citri tells her it's not a good idea, as Kray would be the prime suspect. They arrive at the auction, and meet up with Chino and the others. Kray realizes that everyone is wondering about the ultimate relic he is looking for, so he asks Chino to bid for him instead. The auction begins, and as the relics are sold, Alice asks when the mask will appear. But Kray says it is the last item, as there are many people interested in it. Kray is disappointed that he cannot bid on other items, because if he does, he will not have enough money for the mask. Next, a sword appears, and Chino looks at Kray for his signal. He fights with all his strength against his addiction, but when the next items appear, he begins to lose control. He is about to make an offer, but he thinks about what Citri would think of him. However, he realizes that she would forgive him, so he prepares to give everything he has. But the next item is the golem of the Tower of Akasha, and he realizes that Citri wants it. But she tells him not to worry, because if he does, they won't have enough money for the mask. She tells him that it's not that important, but Kray can see how much it means to her. He then decides to win it for her, and the offer reaches almost 300 million. Then Citri starts to worry, but Kray thinks that this is actually just her money. The bid reaches 500 million, but Kray continues to bid and offers all of his 950 million budget, but is still outbid. The golem ends up being sold for 1 billion, and we see that Kray won thanks to his trump card, which in this case was a check made out to Lucia. He wonders if it was right to use all of his sister's savings, and after winning, he talks to Tino, and Gilbert asks him what he did. He will do it with the mask, but he says he has already achieved his goal, and even decides to leave. So, the auction for the mask begins, and he remembers Eclair saying she would give the mask to Ark. Then he realizes he can still get it. So he meets Ark the next day, and orders him to go see Eclair, informing him that the relic she won is dangerous. Ark's companion says that Kray is being very vague, and Ark asks him if he will need to use his weapon. Kray says it would be best not to take it. And then, we see Eclair depressed, telling her father that she won an auction. But the advisor says that Kray left early, so he didn't care that much about this relic. They comment on how much money Kray spent on that golem, so they know that Kray simply let them win. She is frightened when she looks at the mask and says she is a loser. But suddenly, the mask asks if she wants to have power. The girl begins to hesitate, until suddenly she is possessed by the mask. Meanwhile, Ark arrives at Eclair's house. He is told that she has locked herself in her room. Suddenly, a loud bang is heard, so they rush to take a look and find Eclair wearing the mask. As she throws it, a guard falls away. Ark asks her what happened. Then, she says she won the strongest relic for him. He thanks her and asks her to give him the relic, but she sees that he has her sword and refuses to do so just because of the weapon. At that moment, Arky remembers Kray's warning about not taking his weapon. Eclair begins to lose control, so Ark orders his group to prepare to fight and warns them that they must avoid hurting Eclair. She refuses to lose to anyone and attacks Ark with a sword. Meanwhile, Arnold's group is very happy because they managed to sell that mask for 200 million. However, they meet Alice and Citri waiting for them. They say that the plan they obtained is part of Kray's plan, so they ask for a share of the money. Arnold's companion finds this ridiculous, but Citri says she is willing to sell the antidote for about 10 million. She asks if they noticed that their drinks tasted strange, and suddenly everyone feels sick. Then Arnold realizes he has no choice but to buy the antidote from her. Back at the clan's office, Kray organizes a party to thank Ark. When he arrives, he gives Kray the mask. Kray is very excited to finally have his face reversed, and Eclair thanks him for sending Ark. Kray is very happy with the mask. Ark warns him that it is very dangerous, but Kray doesn't care and puts it on immediately. The mask clings to his face and evaluates him, but it discovers that all his their attributes are very low and that he doesn't even have motivation. Therefore, the mask has no way to possess him, and so it removes itself from his face. Kray realizes that this is not a reverse face, but he also likes this relic because it can talk. Eclair finally decides to give it to him. At the same time, Alice and Citri return with the money, and everyone enjoys the party. Kray, upon discovering what happened to Claire, becomes depressed when he realizes that he must be weaker than her. That's why the mask didn't activate with him. The second season begins with us returning to the past, where little Tino is getting ready to go out. She puts a beautiful brooch on her clothes and goes out on the street, where she is greeted by people. The elderly ask her to be careful while shopping, but Tino reassures them that she is already 11 years old. Tino then goes to a bakery, where the owner asks her to be careful, as some evil hunters are kidnapping children on the street. The baker says she will be fine as long as she doesn't go into any alleys. As soon as the baker says this, Tino, after buying a lot of things, ends up in a dark alley while thinking about the olive oil she should buy. When she turns around, she comes face to face with a man who accuses her of hurting him. She backs away when she sees the man, but bumps into another man who claims that the girl broke his bones, but they are always waiting at the end of each part of the alley. After she gets tired of running away, the skinny guy compliments her legs, saying she'll make good money, and his fat buddy starts to get excited. Tino asks anyone for help, and at that moment Kray bumps into them. Fortunately, Kray was with his group, and they quickly introduce themselves as the Morning Souls. The kidnappers realize that they are the newbies who have been causing a stir in the capital. They get angry and ask if they are trying to steal their prey, but at that moment Luke punches the big guy and throws him away. Luke apologizes because the impact of his blow also affected Skinny, and out of nowhere, the human's hair turns into an afro. Angry, Skinny tries to punch Kray, but Alice kicks him away. The men decide to retreat to their place and Skinny says goodbye because they are outnumbered. Then they run away, promising to take revenge one day. Kray then asks if Tino is okay, and little 11-year-old Tino asks who they are. That's how she met this gang of super strong madmen. In the present day, we see Tino telling the story we just saw. She says that at the time, the master acted like a god, reaching out his hand to her. Eva is happy that Tino is okay, and congratulates Kray on another great achievement. Kray looks away and admits to himself that he had completely forgotten. After all, it has been 5 years since he and his group saved Tina. Besides, he couldn't see anything with that mask on, and he only ended up saving her by pure chance. That day, after being saved, Tina thanked everyone, and all of Kray's friends asked her if anything had been stolen. Tina noticed that her brooch was missing, and then, Kray tells little Tino that they will take care of these kidnappers, so she shouldn't worry about it. Tino then runs away in the middle of the night, so Citri asks Kray how he intends to deal with the kidnappers. He says that the kidnappers are hunters, so all they have to do is report them to the association. Citri asks how he knows they are hunters, and Luke says that Kray probably used his mind's eye power, and everyone gets excited saying that Kray is amazing. He, embarrassed, admits that yes, but deep down, even without proof, he believes that there is no one more suspicious in the capital than hunters. The next day, they go to the branch manager, Gark. They introduce themselves with more morning souls, and Gark reveals that he has heard some stories about them. Kray finds Gark's face scary. They then reveal that some hunters were trying to kidnap a little girl. Gark then asks why they didn't arrest the kidnappers on the spot, and also asks what the kidnappers look like. Kray says he doesn't know the kidnappers' faces and only heard their voices. Gark asks why, and the answer is easy. It was because they were wearing these masks. Luke says that these masks are cool, and by wearing them, they are training their mind's eye, just like Kray. Kray says that the girl who helped them can describe their faces, but Gark gets angry and says that there are many hunters in the capital. Finally, Kray asks what they should do if the kidnappers try to take revenge, and Gark gives Kray's group permission to do whatever they want. After that, as they leave, Gark says that Kray's group is made up of innocent children, and there's no way for them to know if the kidnappers were hunters, since they didn't even see them. He then wonders who is kidnapping the children and refuses to believe that hunters are really doing this kind of dirty work. On the other side of the screen, the two kidnappers are very angry that their prey has been stolen. In their minds, Kray's group ended up kidnapping that little girl instead of them. They urgently need to meet their kidnapping quota so that the organization doesn't come after them. The big guy suggests that they introduce that group of powerful hunters to their organization, as he is sure that the organization will love having powerful hunters like those kidnapping children for them. And if those children refuse to help the organization, they will end up being eliminated. They smile maniacally, saying that this is a perfect plan. Back in the present, Tino continues telling this story to everyone, and the hunters can't stand Tino talking non-stop anymore. Kray was there listening to everything, and he begins to remember what happened at that time. He remembers that after everything Tyro told them, some hunters they didn't know came to talk to their group. They invited him to join their organization. They claimed that their boss is a very influential person in the region, and since they are recommending them personally, the head of the organization will make an exception and receive them today. Kray has no idea what organization they are talking about, so he comes to the conclusion that there is another organization he should visit, one just like the Hunters branch. He believes it is best to hear what they have to say right away. At the time, Kray did not notice that these were the same kidnappers that his group had kicked out, so he agreed to follow them. Along the way, the kidnappers asked what they had done with their prey. Kray believes they are talking about the monster they recently defeated in the treasure vault, so he says that the merchandise was damaged, so he discarded it immediately. The kidnappers were frightened and called Kray's group ruthless. When Kray's group arrived at the kidnappers' lair, the entire siege had already been set up to destroy them if they refused to join them. They were greeted by a fat man and placed in a room full of weapons. Lucy realized something was wrong and asked Kray why he had agreed to follow those kidnappers. Everyone in the group realized this, except Kray. They asked Kray when they would be able to start beating everyone up, and Kray asked them to wait a little longer. Suddenly, a door opened and Dello, the leader of the organization, appeared. He offers them a good deal, saying he will pay them well for their services, but he wants exclusivity for the organization. Crepedium. A little time to think, and then the leader of the organization offers to show them their best merchandise. In another room, Kray's group is surrounded by men hiding their identities. Then, the leader of the organization shows them a cell full of children and says that these are the best goods. Right after that, he invites Kray to join him. In response, Kray asks what will happen if he refuses, and then, the fattest man in the organization shoots Luke in the head. Luke falls to the ground, and Kray prepares to say that this is too much, and that he refuses the organization's offer. But now it's too late, because in the blink of an eye, Luke has cut off the arms of both enemies. The leader of the organization tries to understand how Luke is still alive, but he was not harmed by the shot because the special masks that Kray made were so expensive that they had no money left. Even though they were a high-ranking group, everyone confirmed that they are poor at the moment. But they have no regrets, because their leader always makes the best decisions. They then turn on the kidnappers, and in a matter of seconds, everyone is defeated. And while the kidnappers were beaten and blown up, Kray tried to convince himself that everything was fine, as Gark promised to take responsibility. Suddenly, he finds a brooch on the ground, and the next day, he reads the news that a group of missing people have returned home unharmed. Citri then says that they were summoned by the Hunters Association, and on the way there, while they were talking, Chino appears in front of them and Kray hands her the brooch he believes is hers. Chino thanks them and says she is very happy to have met them. At the time, she took a photo with Kray's group, and now she can't even imagine where she would be if she hadn't met them all back then. Now she is very happy to have met them. In addition, today marks 5 years since they met. Chino reveals to Kray that her dream is to one day join their group. She will continue to undergo grueling training without giving up, so that one day she will become a stronger person. When Tino leaves, Kray thinks about taking Tino to some other abandoned ruins, because that way she might find another relic for him to use. Some time passes, and we see Kray accompanied by Citri and Tino. They intend to explore a ruin together. However, after a brief analysis, Kray and Citri realize that this ruin is empty. Kray apologizes to Citri for bringing her along for nothing. But she looks around and says that this place also has sand rabbits, so Kray needs an escort. Kray reflects to himself that even he could beat one of these in a one-on-one fight. And Chino looks into the bottom of the hole and says that maybe they'll find something if they investigate the bottom of this hole. He asks her not to exaggerate, and then Tira jumps into the hole. When she leaves, Citri reveals that this hole was dug by the golem he bought for her at the auction, and the entrance to a hidden base was disguised as a simple sand rabbit nest. And since Kray is there, she invites him to take a look. Suddenly, a strange man appears saying Eureka several times. It turns out that he has discovered something special about this rabbit hole, and when Kray asks who he is, he introduces himself as a representative of the Sand Rabbit Research Laboratory. The strange creature explains that his group is unknown, and says he has come to do fieldwork. He says he has made an incredible discovery and asks if they want to know. While Kray thinks about how to respond, Tina is digging a hole in the ground with her own hands. On the other side of the screen, the man with a sand rabbit in his hand shows his discovery. He believes that rabbits have created a futuristic civilization underground and says that rabbits are intelligent, but pretend to be dumb. As he speaks, Citri yawns. Then, the man reveals that this place is the capital of sand rabbits. Citri obviously doesn't believe this nonsense, since earth rabbits are not underground creatures. The man then says he will show the results of his research by making a great stew with this rabbit. Suddenly, Tina appears running away from a giant rabbit, and the creature Citri created emerges from the ground in a bizarre way. The crazy man looks at the giant rabbit and says that it is probably the famous king of rabbits, a creature he calls Arena Rex. He then closes his armor and says he is very happy to be a rabbit researcher. Kray looks at the rabbit and says he didn't know they could get so big, and with a smile on her face, Citri says it's normal, since sand rabbits are monsters. Tino runs desperately, while blaming Kray for putting her in yet another surprise challenge. Back at the guild, an attendant tells Kray that he has received a letter from those nobles involving the cursed mask. He tells his attendant to open the letter and respond with a standard reply and reject any work or invitations, because as she can see, he is too busy playing with these dolls. The woman says he has nothing on his schedule, and Kray says he needs to keep his schedule free. He reveals that he is trying hard to keep his schedule that way. The woman looks at the dolls and asks if Kray has gotten a new relic. He denies it and says it's just a relic that Maddie's has finally finished evaluating. This relic can create and control an illusion within a 250 centimeter radius around the bracelet. Relics like this are rare, and he creates an illusion imitating the face of his attendant. She is startled and asks him not to do that. Kray really liked the relic, so he wants to thank Chino properly for finding it for him. Meanwhile, Citri went to Liz in an abandoned store. Liz is torturing some men, and none of them have revealed anything about who hired them. She even used Citri's colored water, and even so, none of them revealed anything. Citri says that these red hunters just need payment to do dirty work. They probably don't even know who they're working for. Liz asks what she does with these people, and Citri reveals that she wants some people to carry out her experiments. However, she creates magicians. Alice asks if she can dispose of them, which scares the men. However, Citri says she can use them, since they are used to doing dirty work. Citri then bends down and kindly asks if any of them want to work for her. Alice comments that working for Citri is a way to become a man. It's worse than dying, and since the men didn't say anything, Liz hit them some more. When night falls, we see Tino complaining about the giant rabbit challenge. Kray apologizes and says he will reward her with what he won, with one of his relics. At that moment, Liz opens the door and says that Tino is very weak, so Kray should give her something to make her a little stronger. Citri agrees with this, saying that something that increases her physical abilities should help Tino a lot. Tino tries to refuse because she doesn't want to depend on a relic, but Liz fights with her for running away from a sand rabbit. Kray decides to test some relics on her. He has a special one that greatly increases physical abilities, so he takes the cursed mask that caused great chaos. Tino is afraid, but Kray reminds her that the noblewoman became strong enough to face a group of high-ranking hunters. Tino promises to try hard and get stronger naturally. But then Liz holds her down and Kray lets the mask fit her face while poor Tino screams that it's disgusting. In a matter of seconds, Tino's personality changes completely, and she grabs Kray in her lap. She scolds Liz for getting too close to her master and also fights with Citri, calling her an old witch. She says that neither of them are good enough for their master and tells them both to get lost. This angers the two girls, and Kray comments that Tino has gone crazy. After that, we see Kray receive a mission exclusively for him. The mission was sent by an important nobleman, and it is very important for the Hunters Association to increase the friendship between hunters and nobles. Kray says that other people can do it, but the mission is exclusively for him. He says he will send Ark's group to take care of it because he doesn't want to work. Then, the old man tells him that he has not completed any missions, and for that reason he will be expelled from the Hunters Association. For the old man, this will be a shame because Kray is at level 8, and never in history has someone so strong been expelled for not working. He blames Kray for giving credit for his achievements to everyone around him. But deep down, Kray admits that he really hasn't done anything. Kray doesn't accept the mission yet, but promises to prepare to fulfill it. When he goes out on the street, two people end up greeting him, calling him Kray. He doesn't know who these people are, but joins them for a cup of tea. The boy then asks Kray not to carry out this mission for the nobility. He knows that Kray is almost at level 9, but originally defeating the Akasha Tower was their responsibility, not Kray's. The boy says he can't let Kray do everything, and in response, Kray just agrees with everything and says he doesn't want to get involved in these dangerous things and doesn't intend to go up to level 9. The boy thanks Kray for his understanding, and suddenly, Arnold and his group show up wanting to pick a fight with Kray. At that moment, the boy and his partner decide to deal with Arnold as a way of thanking Kray for his understanding. It turns out that this boy is Art Baron, and the girl is called Mary, and both are members of the Hidden Curse group, which is a clan of magicians led by the strongest magician in the capital, called Abyssal Hell. Upon discovering the boy's name, Kray asks to go to the bathroom, and then he escapes through the window, because he doesn't want to pick a fight with the old master of the Hidden Curse group. On the street, to hide his identity, he uses Ark's face, but he has not yet mastered the artifact, so the face is glowing and attracting everyone's attention. Arriving at his office, he receives news that should be good. He has been invited to attend a prestigious meeting that the Emperor is offering to hunters. He is sad and says that today is really not his day. And as the woman explains the details of the event, Kray becomes increasingly discouraged. She is happy that the Emperor has recognized Kray. But he, on the other hand, is thinking of fleeing to the land, to the mountains. Kray then leaves, saying he is going to take some time off. Alice intends to follow him, and Citri goes along too. But Citri is still concerned about the investigation of the Tower of Akasha. At that moment, Kray remembers the earlier conversation and says he asked the Hidden Curse group to take care of it. Citri can then go without worry. Then, Liz tells everyone that Kray is going on vacation and asks if anyone wants to come along. At that moment, everyone starts making excuses, because they are afraid that this vacation will be another impossible event that Kray always puts them through to suffer and become stronger. Liz gets angry, but Kray calms her down. The next day, Liz goes to Tino and tells her to get ready to travel with them. Tino apologizes for everything, but Liz doesn't care about that. On the other side of the screen, we see that Citri has taken care of the Red Hunters, and now they are her loyal servants. She asks them to greet Kray, but they remain silent, so she presses a button, causing them to be electrocuted. Thus, they finally begin to act like better people. Kray asks if they are her friends, and she says yes. Liz arrives with Tino, and the poor rookie is afraid of dying in Kray's next challenge. They finally begin to leave, and the weather begins to close in. Arnold's group quickly discovers that Kray is leaving town, and Arnold is very angry that Kray escaped from them through the bathroom window, so he's going after them. Gark also discovers that Kray has left the capital, but he didn't take the special mission with him, so he orders this beautiful girl to go after him with the mission, because she hashes very important data. She joins a group of hunters to follow the trail of Kray, and on the way out of town, she ends up meeting Arnold. At the same time, terror begins in the city with horrible news, which makes the hunters believe that Kray has deceived them again, and now they will have to participate in a very difficult event where everyone could end up dying. On the way, Kray remembers that he is going to the same city where Gark wanted him to carry out a mission. But for him, all he has to do is stay out of trouble and everything will be fine. Along the way, they take a break and Liz trains Tino, forcing her to run after her and catch up. Otherwise, she will have to do 1,000 push-ups. Suddenly, Liz stops in front of Citri and asks if she has anything to increase the difficulty of the training, such as lightning or something like that. Citri remembers that she has a tool to generate lightning and throws it in Liz's direction. Tino just watches while Liz says that Tino must be strong enough to survive a lightning bolt. Upon hearing this, poor Tino runs away so she won't die. But Kray reminds her that she can use the mask to survive. Tino refuses to wear the mask, so Liz makes her get hit by the first lightning bolt. Fortunately, Tino doesn't die, but Liz is now excited to test how many lightning bolts she can take directly to her body. Citri tries to calm Kray down by saying she has many healing potions, but Kray tries to say that this should be a vacation trip. However, it is already too late, and he does not know if Tino will survive. A while later, inside a tent, Kray tells Liz that she can't train Tino. She asks him why, and he says that they are on vacation and shouldn't exert themselves. He forbids any kind of training, which shocks even Citri. Meanwhile, poor Tino is dead beside them, and her body still has stored energy. Kray then continues to forbid the two girls from committing acts of violence, and they are even more shocked. However, Citri realizes that Kray is telling them to stop training because he wants them to have more life and death fights. Kray tries to tell them that they should just have fun during the holidays, but it's too late and the two girls have already misunderstood everything. Close to Kray, Tino comes back to life, but she is still scared after having died a few times. At the same time, we see that the two groups that were after Kray have reunited to follow him. Fortunately, thanks to the help of Arnold's group, everyone has been able to move faster, because even though they are a bunch of idiots, they are still strong and can easily defeat any monster. They know that Kray is heading for the city of Ilan and are approaching as fast as they can. Meanwhile, in the city of Ilan, Kray and the girls are in a hideout belonging to Citri, and due to the orders that Kray gave to Citri and Liz, they have put aside their weapons and dangerous objects. Suddenly, Liz enters through a hidden door and finds some potions, including a powerful aphrodisiac. She also finds some erotic clothes, and at that moment, Liz runs after her to stop her from looking at her underwear. At the same time, Tino is looking at Kray with great fear, but he reassures her by saying that this is a vacation trip and that they are not going to fight. The girls ask what that was, but Kray says it was just a natural phenomenon, while Citri wonders if these additional lightning bolts were caused by her overuse of her lightning potion. Outside, we see the knights ready to fight. Arnold's group has already arrived in the city, and they ask the guards what is happening. They point to the sky and say that it is to blame. Arnold looks up at the sky and sees a lightning spirit. Everyone is shocked, as lightning spirits are high-level elementals, and one of these should not be in a peaceful city. A member of Arnold's group comments that this elemental may even be stronger than the dragon they defeated. Arnold wonders where Miltrix is, since he is strong and should defeat this creature. He then tells everyone to hold out until Kray appears to defeat the creature. While they fight, Kray is in a bathtub. Time passes with Arnold wondering why Kray doesn't show up, and meanwhile, Kray is enjoying his vacation as much as he can. When Kray finishes his bath, Liz appears showing Citri's outfit, which is basically a single string, and Citri quickly hides her secret underwear and apologizes for the inconvenience. During the battle, everything seemed to go from bad to worse, but Arnold gave it his all and defeated the lightning elemental. The next day, when Kray went out on the streets, they saw that everything was destroyed. The guard in the exotic outfit informed them that a group of high-level hunters were in town and they took care of everything. Kray is happy and says that thanks to these people, he can sleep like a baby. Some time later, Arnold discovers that Kray has already left town and slams his fist on the table. To make matters worse, Arnold receives information that Kray commented to the guard that thanks to the hunters who fought, he can sleep like a baby. For Arnold, this was the last straw. He believes that Kray knew they were following him and therefore put them in a situation where they would have to fight that elemental to survive. Arnold then decides to leave immediately in pursuit of Kray. Meanwhile, Kray is with Liz, who is clinging to him. Jealous, Citri says that Liz's genes are not compatible with Kray's, but Liz says that Citri is her sister, so that applies to both of them. Annoyed, Citri takes a potion to summon a powerful monster, but Kray stops her from using it by throwing the potion on the road. Kray then says that there is a cafe just ahead that serves delicious sweets, and he wants to stop by there. Liz says she doesn't like sweets, and Citri says the same. Meanwhile, Tino is afraid. She believes that sweets may be a code for something scary that even Liz and Tino don't like. At the same time, the contents of Citri's potion spill out along the way, and a horde of intelligent creatures prepare to fight to the death the next day. Further ahead, we see many hunters gathering to participate in a great fight. Citri, pretending to be an ordinary girl, asks what is happening, and then the man informs her that a horde of orcs has camped in the nearby mountains, and if a group of that size attacks them, the city will suffer great losses. That's why reinforcements from the region have been gathered to deal with them. At that moment, Liz also appears, pretending to be an ordinary girl. They fight for attention here on the channel, but I prefer to show Tino afraid that something horrible will happen and Kray laughing at the two of them. Poor Tino was beginning to believe that candy means orcs, and then Kray says that tomorrow he is eager to enjoy some chocolate candy. He invites Tino to come with him since Liz and Citri don't like candy, and poor Tino loses consciousness just thinking about accompanying Kray. Later, we see Citri's group of servants wanting to escape, but they can't do anything because of their collars. Suddenly, the creatures Citri created go crazy and go after the orcs to destroy them. The orcs are quickly slaughtered by Citri's creatures, and the orc leader doesn't understand anything that is happening. With no options left, the orc leader orders everyone to retreat. At the same time, Tino is increasingly frightened by the fact that Kray wants to eat orcs with chocolate syrup. Meanwhile, Arnold and his group find the potion to attract Citri's monsters. They wonder why someone left it in the middle of nowhere, and the red-haired guy says that the potion's effect must have worn off over time. Perhaps this theory is true, but suddenly the group of orcs rushes towards them, and at the same time, Kray is relaxing in the bath again. Arnold's group faces the horde of orcs and notices that the orcs are injured, but suddenly the orcs become even more irritated, perhaps due to the effect of Citri's potion. After his bath, Kray grabs a bowl of strawberry ice cream, and Tino is still thinking about the orcs. At the same time, Arnold's group is having trouble dealing with the orcs. They have been fighting for several minutes, and Arnold himself is getting angry because he doesn't want to waste time with mere orcs. Meanwhile, Kray is in his room ready to sleep, until Liz suddenly appears saying she is going to sleep with him. Then, out of nowhere, Citri appears using a special door that was hidden by a picture of her. Liz asks where she came from, and Citri reveals that she was in the bathroom. While they fight to sleep with Kray, he simply curls up in bed while thinking about the candy he will eat the next day. Meanwhile, Arnold is facing the orc leader, until out of nowhere another element appears, this time one of fire, and Arnold yells that he will make Kray pay. The next day at the candy store, we see Kray excited to eat, but Tino is afraid, believing that everyone around her must be orcs. Kray then begins to tell Tino that Liz and Citri are nice people, albeit a little over the top, but he asks Tino to trust them. But Tino's problem isn't Liz or Citri. She reveals that she's afraid of the trial Kray wants to put her through. She asks where the orcs will come from, until out of nowhere, two hunters start saying that the orcs were turned into charcoal the night before. Then Tino finally reveals that she thought eating candy was actually eating orcs. She was afraid all this time, thinking she would have to go through a great trial. She cheers up, takes her candy, and promises never to doubt Kray again. Meanwhile, Arnold and his group finally arrive in the city, where they are welcomed with a big festival to celebrate their victory. They are recognized as the heroes who defeated the orcs and a fire elemental. Kray notices Arnold passing by as a hero and suggests leaving soon. But before leaving, Liz begins to mock them, saying that they did well to defeat a bunch of weak orcs. This irritates Arnold, and he decides to follow them. But a group of single mothers with a lot of love to give surround Arnold and pour all their love on him. So Arnold leaves for the next town, and after seeing Arnold, Kray decides to take a shortcut through the mountains to escape from the man who wants to confront him. Liz and Citri are happy and comment that their vacation is finally going to begin, while Tino, on the other hand, is sad because this area is full of dangerous monsters. Kray is now determined to show Arnold how good he is at running away, while Arnold and his group are still stuck receiving their honors as heroes who saved the city. Tino has already accepted his death, and in the forest, an even worse creature is eager to cause more trouble. During their journey, Tino gets scared by the terrifying monsters that appear along the way. Fortunately, she hasn't had to act yet, since the Giga Chad created by Citri is effortlessly destroying every creature that crosses their path. The group keeps moving north, toward the Galist Mountains, a region completely infested with monsters. Citri mentions that in these lands dwell the legendary lost giant demons. Curious, Kray asks what they look like, but Citri admits that no one really knows because everyone who has ever seen them ended up dead. Meanwhile, Liz watches through the window, observing the strange creatures outside. Kray notices that she looks a bit sad for not being able to train, and he tells her that defeating monsters doesn't really count as training, since for them, that's something natural. Excited by his comment, Liz invites Tino to go punch some monsters together, and, as always, Kray offers Tino his creepy mask. But for Tino, both options are terrible, so, without thinking twice, she runs off into the forest. Unfortunately, the whole Tino fighting forest monsters arc was cut from the story, so we only know that she suffered a bit more. Moving forward, the group comes across two paths, one that looks safe, and one that looks extremely dangerous. However, according to Citri's servants, the safe path is actually a trap set by bandits. Even after hearing that, Kray decides to take the prettier path. Some time later, everything turns out fine, no monsters appear, and Kray is happy they made it through safely. He decides to go fetch some water, while, on the other side, Arnold's group arrives at the same crossroads. Everyone believes it must be another one of Kray's provocations, but Arnold thinks it's impossible that everything so far could have been planned by him. However, Kray's guild members insist that he's absolutely capable of such things, and they even remind everyone that they themselves have been victims of Kray's trials before. While Kray goes to fetch water, Liz suddenly appears, jumping out of the river and kicking a giant fish straight out of it. Later, We see Kray fixing her hair, and Liz happily comments that everything is fun when he's around. She's enjoying her vacation and says she's happy to have come along. She also promises to get stronger, so she can protect everyone and to help Tino grow as well. Kray simply nods with a calm smile, but just as Liz seems about to try something more with him, a sudden explosion interrupts the moment. We then see Citri and her monsters fighting against an incredibly powerful creature. When Tino tries to help, the monster dodges her attack with ease and prepares to strike back. But just as everything seems lost, Liz appears and protects Tino with a single kick. Tino is amazed by Liz's strength, and Citri reveals that the creature is actually one of the lost giant demons. Moments later, Kray arrives and asks what's going on. Citri calmly replies that everything is going exactly according to his plan. She explains that this creature learned from the bandits of the region how to create illusionary paths that deceive travelers and lead them into deadly traps. That's why one of the roads looked perfect, while the other looked terrifying. Citri also mentions that the demon has been following them ever since they entered its territory. Suddenly, the creature grabs a massive boulder and throws it straight at Kray, shouting for him to die. Before it can hit him, Liz catches the rock mid-air and throws it back with all her strength, telling the demon to die instead. The rock hits the target directly, but to everyone's shock. While Citri comments that the demon can even speak, Liz realizes that her attack didn't even make him flinch, and warns that if the battle drags on, Tino could end up dying, since she's the weakest of the group. At that moment, the demon stands back up, and the wound on its stomach heals instantly, showing just how dangerous it truly is. Meanwhile, Arnold's group is still debating which path to take, until Arnold finds a message sent by Liz and becomes visibly irritated. Back on the other side, Kray decides to retreat after all. He jokes that he's the weakest in the group and doesn't want to die for nothing. Citri informs him that the creature is still following them, and asks if she should use someone as bait. Kray immediately refuses, so she comes up with another brilliant idea. She suggests throwing another monster attracting potion inside the demon's territory. According to her, this would increase their chances of escaping by 50%, without having to face the demon directly. But, as always, there's a small problem. The monsters summoned by the potion might end up attacking the group as well. Just hearing that, Tino panics, even considering ending her own life right there, just to avoid going through another one of Kray's insane plan. However, Citri, with her usual dark sense of humor, explains that there are creatures in this forest capable of reviving the dead, only to kill them again, and again, and again. Upon hearing that, Tino completely breaks down, realizing that not even dying would be an escape. Sometime later, everything works out. Kray's group manages to avoid the monsters, and finally, the demon's presence disappears. Even so, Tino stays hidden, whispering softly that Kray is terrifying and that he's really scary. At that moment, Kray appears holding his sinister mask. He tells Tino not to worry so much about her surroundings, and, trying to make her feel more at ease, he hands her the mask, saying that as long as she's holding it, at least she won't die. With a calm smile, he adds that if she's carrying the mask, he won't have to worry so much about her. Tino, having no other choice, finally accepts the gift, and, right after that, the monster created by Citri continues fighting the modified bandits that she herself had created. Sometime later, one of the modified bandits sees Citri handing a mysterious key to Kray, and a dangerous thought begins to form in his mind. Meanwhile, Arnold's group discovers Kray's camp. They inspect everything carefully and conclude that it must be a trap, but even so, they decide to move forward. On the other side, the intelligent demon is watching from a distance. He realizes that Arnold's group is strong, and that they know Kray's team, so he decides to put a new plan into action to approach Kray while disguised as Arnold. The real Arnold notices movement in the forest and heads out to investigate. Shortly after, the demon appears before Kray, still disguised as Arnold. Kray looks him up and down and asks, "Where are your clothes and your weapon?" The imposter arrogantly replies, "Those things are for the weak." Kray, completely confused, offers him a cup of coffee. But the demon suddenly starts screaming hysterically, shouting that he's going to kill Kray. Puzzled, Kray looks at Liz and Tino and asks if that's really Arnold. Without hesitation, both of them confirm, yes, that horrible thing looks exactly like Arnold. Believing them with all his heart, Kray kneels down and apologizes for everything that happened between them. And right at that moment, the real Arnold appears, even angrier after seeing Kray treating the demon as if it were him. Consumed by rage, Arnold raises his sword and strikes Kray with all his strength, trying to kill him. But Kray is wearing billions of magical rings that protect him from fatal attacks, and the sword is completely reflected. Arnold can't understand what just happened. To him, it looks as if Kray performed a perfect parry. At that moment, the demon drops his disguise, revealing his true monstrous form and roaring that he'll kill everyone there. But Citri and Liz are already prepared. They plan to eliminate him right away. Kray then points at Arnold and says that the demon tricked him, making him apologize to the wrong person. But that only makes Arnold even angrier. He rushes forward and lands another hit on Kray. Furious, Arnold surpasses his own limits and unleashes a powerful lightning element attack. At that moment, Kray notices that Tino is about to be hit, so he steps forward to protect her, sacrificing yet another one of his precious resistance rings that defend him from lethal damage. Arnold shouts at Kray to use a weapon or attack with magic, but Kray calmly replies, "I'm a pacifist. I'd rather not fight." Arnold attacks again, hitting Kray on the foot, but the result is the same. Nothing works. Tino makes a bold decision to face Arnold on her own. To prove to Kray that she truly trusts him, she grips the mask tightly and puts it on her face. Kray feels a chill run down his spine. Something powerful has just awakened. When the mask tries to take control of her body, Tino resists with all her willpower and demands full control. The mask recognizes her inner strength and acknowledges that she's worthy of using it manually, without the automatic mode. And then, the transformation begins, and Tino takes on a completely overpowered form like a true magical girl. Liz turns around, shocked by the scene, and in the next instant, Arnold is sent flying back by a single devastating kick. Excited, Kray shouts enthusiastically, "Super Tino." The next day, Tino wakes up. Kray, smiling, tells her that unfortunately, even with all that power, Arnold was still stronger and ended up defeating her with a single punch. Meanwhile, Liz and Citri managed to defeat the demon, but it kept reviving over and over again. Exhausted, they decided to leave the problem to Arnold's group and went on their way. Tino survived, but she feels down for not being able to win, so Kray, with a gentle tone, tells her that even his own companions have lost many times before. He reminds her that Liz herself was defeated several times before becoming as strong as she is now, and he promises that one day, Tino will become an incredible hunter. Liz blushes at the revelation, and Tino promises to train as hard as she can. She asks Kray if he'll ever officially accept her into his group, and he answers that he will, which makes everyone smile happily at the result. Meanwhile, Arnold's group finally eliminates the demon. The members of Kray's guild realize that since the beginning of their journey, Arnold and his allies have grown tremendously, becoming true heroes with great achievements. Even so, Arnold still believes he's being manipulated by Kray, and vows to find him again and defeat him once and for all. After a while, we see that our hunters are near the city of Sulls, a place famous for its hot springs and beaches. We see Tino watching someone with admiration, and that someone is Citri and her perfect body. Citri asks Tino to get plenty of rest after everything that has happened, and when she finishes saying this, we can see a set of suspicious vials on her arm. Meanwhile, Kray is very happy to be in a luxury inn far from any problems. Kray is happy to be alone in this place, and as he thinks about it, he remembers Citri warning him that a nearby town is being attacked by bandits, so it's normal that no one shows up here. Kray doesn't care about bandits. The only thing he wants is to get away from trouble. Suddenly, he hears someone singing. The noise is coming from the open area, so he goes there to check what is happening. There, he finds a strange creature singing. He remembers Liz inviting him to hunt a hot spring dragon. He obviously refused and also asked what a hot spring dragon is. This brings him to the present moment, where he sees this strange creature singing in this hot spring. Kray doesn't believe that this little creature is a dragon. He believes that this cute creature must be the mascot of the owner of this place, so he decides to take a bath in the open air, obviously avoiding eye contact with the creature so as not to disturb it. Little did Kray know that the hot spring dragon is one of the most powerful creatures in this world. With a high level of intelligence, the dragon cannot stand Kray's presence and attacks him. But fortunately, he survives thanks to his safety ring. Meanwhile, Citri was trying to use a suspicious shampoo on Tino, until they both hear Kray shouting that a dragon has appeared. Citri and Tino quickly appear to support him, but Citri claims that Kray did not ask for help, even though his scream sounded like that of someone in despair. Citri says that this dragon is small and that Kray must have called their attention so that Tino would fight this dragon. The dragon attacks them both with its jet of hot water, and they easily dodge it. Tino comes to the conclusion that Kray wants her to overcome her embarrassment by fighting in this outfit that could fall off at any moment. But when she takes her first steps to overcome her shame, her towel falls off, and she is very embarrassed. A while later, we see that Tino has managed to knock out the dragon. Liz laughs nonstop at the weak dragon, but Kray says that even though it is weaker, it is still a dragon. Liz then congratulates Tino, saying that she is officially a dragon slayer. Tino is happy and says she has been feeling her body stronger since she merged with that mask. They then begin to discuss what to do with the dragon. Liz suggests that they eat its meat, but Kray says that this innocent dragon does not deserve to die like that. The dragon, who is listening to everything, is very happy that Kray spared his life. In the background, a man is frightened by what is happening, and at the same time, The girls say that Kray is the only human who has ever tamed a dragon. A while later, we see that the man who was watching Kray is one of the bandits that Citri tortured. He tells Kray that his friends stole the key and ran away. He is afraid of doing the same and being hunted down, so he just wants to return the key to his collar to Kray. Kray tells the man that his friends were hasty, that he had already intended to free them for some time, and then he tells the man that he is now free to do whatever he wants, and even thanks him for telling him about his friend's escape. After that, Kray and the girls walk through the empty streets. Kray sees a hole in the ground and asks if it's a trap, but Citri says that people were probably digging another hot spring. Kray is saddened by the situation in the city and wishes that other hunters would appear to take care of these bandits. Liz asks why they don't do that, and in response, Kray says they are on vacation. Liz notices that a store is open and they are selling hot spring dragon dumplings and demi-human dumplings. Citri reveals that demi-human creatures are described in legends as creatures with human traits. She has researched this a little and knows that there is more information underground. Kray eats a rice and bean dumpling, saying it's delicious, but I've eaten it before and thought it was horrible. I had food poisoning for 30 days and almost died, after which I developed a phobia of Japanese food. As they walk down the street, Arnold suddenly appears, completely destroyed. He gets angry when he sees Kray, but he has no strength left and ends up fainting. Sometime later, Kray discovers that Arnold and his group entered the palace at night. That place has a difficulty level of 8, but even so, everyone claims that going through that place seemed like the fastest way to reach Kray. They say that going in there was a real hell. The first thing they saw was a group of level 8 monsters that Kray defeated. Further ahead, a new wave of level 8 monsters appeared. The power of those monsters. No one but Arnold was a match for these level 8 monsters, so Arnold made the decision to retreat immediately. He created a smoke screen, and then everyone hid using the bodies of the monsters that were already there when they arrived. The bodies of high-level monsters take too long to disappear, so they use the monsters' bodies to escape. Now that Arnold is exhausted from fighting for them, Arnold's subordinates apologize and tell Kray that they understand the message. However, Kray humbly says that he hasn't done anything to them yet, and his words are misunderstood, and everyone begins to believe that Kray still plans to give Arnold more challenges. Then that girl whose name I've already forgotten for about 3 episodes now gives Kray a personal request from Baron Gladys. Kray asks Citri to hold the request and informs the unknown woman that he does not intend to accept this mission. Citri explains that this mission is to defeat a group of criminals who have been causing chaos in the neighboring city. This group is made up of more than 100 bandits, and they came from the Northern Territory. Everyone asks why Kray won't accept this mission, and Kray doesn't know how to respond. But Citri says it's simple. These bandits keep an eye on those who are strong, and every time a hunter of Kray's level approaches, they flee. So even if Kray were to try to defeat this group of bandits, he would not find them. Citri herself has already obtained information that the bandit leader has recently stopped acting, all because Kray was approaching his location. Everyone is shocked and asks if this is true. Even Kray himself wonders if this is really true. But soon after, he says that Citri and Liz's summary is correct. However, after discovering this himself, he is very happy because the fact that he is in this city means that these bandits will leave, so people will return to work in this city, and he will be able to enjoy life here, and he will be able to enjoy all of this. Meanwhile, Arnold is sleeping and having dreams about horrible monsters with Kray's face, and they all say that it's not over yet. When he wakes up, Arnold hears his companions saying that they have already settled the score with Kray, and now Arnold can rest peacefully. His friends say that Kray was a bad opponent that they never had a chance of beating, and Arnold is discouraged from moving forward as the strongest hunter. He walks down the street while reflecting on himself. Arnold is now disappointed in himself. Kray showed him what the strength of a level 8 is, and Arnold's friends are so worried about him that his emotions have now quieted down and he no longer hates Kray so much. He wonders how he managed to get so angry with Kray, since now he feels nothing. He feels that he has lost a vital part of what it means to be a hunter, and for a moment he wants to retire from this job. Tired, Arnold goes to a hot spring thinking about resting, but he runs into Kray taking a bath and having a lot of fun alone. Arnold can't stand the fact that Kray, a man he considers stronger than himself, is relaxing while there are so many important things to be resolved in the world. Kray asks him to calm down a little, but Arnold picks up a concrete pillar while saying that he does not accept Kray and that he also does not intend to give up. His eyes are now burning with fire, and he intends to overcome Kray, even if it is the last thing he does. In the end, Arnold throws the pillar on the floor and promises to make Kray regret underestimating him. When Arnold leaves, Kray wonders why his strong friend left, since he came here to take a shower. Arriving home, Arnold tells his companions that they will all go back to training from scratch, and they, as good companions, are excited that Arnold is back to normal. At night, when Kray was returning home, he saw the hole previously dug to open a hot spring glowing, as if something very valuable was inside. Suddenly, a girl came out of it, using her hair as support, and began to watch him closely. He decided to just leave, and at the same time, the girl kept talking in her strange language. With his back to her, Kray begins to reflect that first a dragon appeared, and now this thing. But suddenly he is captured and taken into the dark hole. The next day, Tino informs everyone that the master disappeared the night before while returning from the hot springs. However, Citri and Liz are not worried about him. They both say they trust Kray completely, and while they are having fun, Liz and Citri finally understand what happened when a girl opens the door to the place where they are. On the other side of the screen, Arnold is ready to leave. He and his group are determined to defeat Kray one day. But as they say goodbye, a man suddenly attacks Arnold. In front of the girls, a ninja appears asking where Kray is. Citri and Liz are excited to fight a ninja, but the enemy multiplies their numbers. However, this is not a problem because Citri's monsters appear with a thirst for blood. In response, the ninja shows them some hostages, saying that if they resist, the hostages will die. Liz and Citri quickly surrender because Kray would be angry if any hostages were hurt, so they are all captured, and at the same time, Arnold receives a very superficial wound and faints after a while. The man who wounded Arnold with a poison to knock out dragons then introduces himself as a member of a bandit organization called Barrel, and their goal is to kill the most powerful hunter. He claims that everything is going according to his plan and also reveals to everyone that Kray has already been captured. At the same time, a man creates a barrier around this tourist town, making the area safer against invasions by other hunters. The leader of the organization then says that he thought about running away, but his subordinate was right, and these hunters are no big deal. They also found other members of Kray's group as they tried to escape, and they believe they have already won this battle. The leader of the bandits starts laughing and says he's going to take a look at the stupid face of the strongest hunter in the world. At that moment, a subordinate appears saying that a woman has escaped. He gets beaten up by the leader, and then an order is given saying that no one can escape from them. And then a group of men begin to search the area, and the woman who escaped was the one whose name I forgot. A while later, we see that the captured Kray is actually the man Kray set free, and the bandit leader is very angry that he still hasn't captured the strongest hunter. However, the other members of Kray's group are real, so all the bandits begin to search this hot spring town for Kray. At the same time, he is trapped in the basement of that alien girl. Thus ends episode 18 of my favorite anime. The next episode comes out in a week. For now, stay tuned for other videos that come out here on the channel. Big kisses to everyone. Bye, and see you in the next video.